Perfect. All right, we're going to call this Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. I always like to begin saying thank you, everybody that is taking the time to join us today. It's Tuesday, it's 9 a.m. You're participating in your local government, and we really appreciate you being here to provide comment. You might not like something we're doing, you might like something we're doing, but either way, it's appreciated because a lot of the stuff we do here is important, and ultimately we're here to represent you. So with that, yes. Yeah, there is. Is everything okay online? Is it just the speaker here? Testing 1, 2. If it's only that, can probably keep messing with it while we continue, or no? Or should we recess? I think we're fine. There we go. I don't think this is going to fix that.
I was just chairman for a minute. You didn't even know it.
I love it.
I had the gavel.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask, because friends get to do this when they're up on the board, if Mary Ann Schmidt will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to get in trouble for that one. Okay, everybody, so we're going to go over the agenda really quick. As you can see, we have a lot of items on the consent calendar. As normal, that's going to be all taken together unless board members pull any of those items. We do have several closed sessions for the end of the meeting. We have 2 10 a.m. appointments. We have a 1 p.m. appointment too. So I'm going to try and be as prompt at ending business and switching to those as we can. We do have some guests that are going to be online. So with that, we'll open up the oral communications section of the meeting. This is your time to be able to address your board on any issues that are not on the agenda today. You'll have 3 minutes. You'll get a beep at 1 minute. And if you have any comments, please come forward.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mankind has always wanted to leave some kind of record of who he was, what he did, and how he existed. Petroglyphs, cave paintings, hieroglyphics, illuminated manuscripts. Our Library of Congress, which was filled and based on Thomas Jefferson's collection of books. These let us know about our ancestors. The state of California, with its state library in Sacramento, was founded in 1850 and is the repository of California's history. Tuolumne County's Carlo Di Ferrari's collection of history of Tuolumne County is housed in the archives at our library. He has left us a rich trove of information and stories about Tuolumne County. If you wish to do research, this is where you go. What if we did not have this collection? What if we did not have the archives as a repository of this material? What if there was no qualified librarian to help us with the information we are looking for? What will people know about Tuolumne County? As I'm sure you're aware, the federal government has withheld $15.7 million in funds that would go to our state to disperse to local libraries. Since the money is funneled down to local libraries from the state, that means that local libraries, as well as Tuolumne County's library, will find a huge gap in their budgets. It is sad that a lack of a few dollars, all of this could disappear. Do we allow Tuolumne County's library to decay and crumble, or do we invest in it, support it, so that people of the future will know that we existed? Please give us our share, fair share, of the coming year's budget. Don't deny us this important institution and the resources it needs to keep us viable for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Mark Fisher, TPPA. I I was going to present this information at the last meeting during a staff report, but as you'll see in a moment, maybe it's better suited for like a public comment. The county administrator's office was contacted recently by our friends, the former Committee on Aging, and asked us to announce the upcoming Centenarian Honors Luncheon. It'll be held at the Tuolumne County Senior Center on Monday, October 20th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is an event that they hold every year to honor Tuolumne County seniors that are 90 to 100 plus years old. If you'd like to attend, please RSVP by October 10th to Kathy Peacock by calling 209-586-4802. I'll leave these flyers in the back for anybody who's interested.
Great, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm standing up. My name is Leon Costas. I'm the Executive Director for Sierra Senior Providers, Sonora Senior Center. And we are very excited about our 2025 Meals on Wheels Radiothon, which actually is this Friday, August 22nd on KZSQ 92.7 between 9 and 12 noon. Our theme for this year's Radiothon is More Than a Meal, offering hot, balanced, and nutritional meals, companionship, protection, meals for pets supported by Sonora Lions Club, reading materials in partnership with the Tuolumne County Library, support to stay at home, and a smile at every visit to seniors 60 and over throughout Tuolumne County. We will be delivering over 60,000 meals this coming year. We're asking for the community for their support in whatever way they can. It could be $20, $100, $500, $10,000. Every dollar counts to help support our Meals on Wheels program. So we ask the community they can come by the Senior Center right next to the county library, make a donation, or they can call the Senior Center at 209-533-2622. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you. Good morning. Thank you
morning.
for letting me embarrass you this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Supervisor Brandon. So I understand supervisors want to privatize, some supervisors want to privatize Standard Park. I was told by a resident that Supervisor Griefer wants to lease it for $1. So my question is, why $1? Why not $10? Or how about $500,000? Another supervisor says that certain entities want to develop a baseball tournament program. Sounds great, going to bring a bunch of money into the county. But then that calendar does get filled up, and who gets knocked off of the calendar for the use of the park? Is it the soccer kids? Is it the baseball adult program? And then still another supervisor says, well, we as a county just can't maintain this park. I wonder why. For decades, recreation gets hit hard on the budget cuts, and then we don't have enough staff, we don't have the equipment, we don't have the money to remodel, and then the park looks like a mess. Then still another supervisor says it's all about youth, and yet somehow we might be knocking this youth program out of the park, no pun intended. The land was donated as a county park, and it should stay as a county park. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't generally have any responses during public comment.
Good morning. My
Good
name
morning.
is Michelle Renee Orth. I'm here to address what happened at the August 5th board meeting, where my appointment to the Air Pollution District Hearing Board recommended by staff did not pass. I volunteered for the vacant position because when I see something that needs attention and I have the capacity to do something about it, my inclination is to act, especially when no one else appears willing to do so. The hearing board position has been vacant for 5 years in violation of state law. I want to explain the context for Supervisor Brandon's remarks about me. Last November, a friend shared an article about the Golden State Natural Resources Wood Pellet Project, a proposal that included a plant here in Tuolumne County. I started asking everyone I knew and many people I didn't know about the project, and almost no one knew anything about it. So I dug deeper, and that included a conversation with Supervisor Brandon. Clearly, he was an ardent proponent of the project. I continued a several-week intensive investigation and concluded, among other things, that the scale of the project was unsustainable and the economics were based on a global carbon accounting house of cards that was doomed to fall. Because when I see something that requires attention and I have the capacity to do something about it, my default is to act, I started informing our community about this project. I helped organize a forum on January 19th with the aim of presenting a variety of perspectives. And while our efforts to recruit pro-pellet plant project panelists, including invitations to Golden State Natural Resources and to members of this board, those efforts were unsuccessful. The event itself was a huge success. We packed the Jamestown Community Hall with engaged and concerned citizens and had a really deep, meaningful conversation about this project. I did this all as an independent volunteer with no motivation other than the good of our community that includes my parents, my siblings, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, my nieces, and my nephews. During my effort to engage our community, Supervisor Brandon attacked me publicly on Facebook, accusing me of not being a Tuolumne County resident and dismissing my community organizing efforts as AstroTurf. At the August 5th meeting, he doubled down, opposing my nomination, claiming I couldn't be trusted to be objective. Apparently, his opinion is based on fact and reason, but mine is based on subjective bias. This isn't just about me. Our county government is in crisis, fiscally and culturally. I worry the belittling and dismissive attitude I encountered is systematic of a deeper dysfunction. I acknowledge Supervisor Griefer for listening to and trusting constituents like me who don't always agree with him. Thank you, Supervisor Griefer. I will continue to act where I believe my efforts can be of service to our community, and I hope our elected officials will meet engaged citizens with respect, not hostility. If we're going to navigate the serious obstacles ahead of us with wisdom and skill, then we, the citizens, elected officials, and county employees are going to have to work together. Tuolumne County needs leaders who build bridges. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hello, good morning all. Patricia Ray from Rugged Trail Road again, and I sincerely, deeply hope that the new CDD, when it gets installed, will start having a fair balance between heavy industry and other uses and people's right to live comfortably in their homes and on their properties, because for over the past 3 years, that hasn't been the case. We want ordinances that look pretty good on paper and impressive to really be followed and not bent and warped for certain people at the expense of others. I'll just give one juicy example. A couple years back, certain people were allowed to do industrial rock crushing 25 feet from one rental home and a little more from another. Not only that, but asphalt slabs with serpentine rock embedded in them, meaning asbestos in the air. That's not healthy. These sorts of things not only shouldn't be continued in our neighborhood, but they must never again be allowed with anyone else's neighborhood either. At present, there's zero buffer zone between the mess over my fence and other surrounding parcels and the dump. And I keep wondering if any other counties in California have this sort of thing. With that, I'll leave you for now, and thank you, Mr. Griefer, for some interest shown in us. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
All right, good morning. My name is John Flynn. For the folks who don't know me, I'm your political watchdog. Take a bite out of crime, like McGruff would say, arf, arf, arf. Okay, enough with that right now. Now, we'll start at the bottom. First of all, it's illegal for city and county and state governments to run a RICO operation inside their government or serving the public and soaking the taxpayers. That is totally illegal. That's a RICO violation, money laundering. You're not allowed to do that. Okay. The word unassailable, look it up. The meaning, and then print it up from Google. Unassailable, invented in London, England, 1692 AD. 1692 AD. With the California now, an update with California Civil Code 22.2. The legislature in California, Sacramento, added the new year, 2024. Look that up. 3 constitutions cover us in California. The next one, attention all parents. California Assembly Bill 495 is legal kidnapping of school-aged children. Please check that out, all parents. And then we have here, then I have IJ.org, first round win against driver surveillance program. Now, you did talk about this in June. Nia Kirk brought it up about Fourth Amendment violation. I concur. Axion is not being sued, but the outcome could affect Axion's 5-year contract with Tuolumne County. And I'd like to see a savings of 5 years worth of public tax dollars until this case is settled by IJ.org and or with the Supreme Court of the United States. We done?
You have 1 minute.
Got 1 minute. Oh, okay, thank you. And okay. And then Congress makes laws, not Axion, and not the Sheriff Department and flashing, trapping cars and everything, automobiles. And Axion cannot cancel out the First, Fourth, or 14th Amendment of the Bill of Rights. The California Republic, 1849 Constitution and state. We are the 1849 Constitution. And then still got time. Okay, in the general election of November 8th, AD 1960, the AD 1879 Constitution of the state of California was repealed by a vote of the people. The 1879 Constitution and the state doesn't even exist. That's just for you two guys, so you're updated. All right, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Great, thank you.
Put my glasses on, it raises my IQ about 25 points.
Good morning.
Good morning. You guys participated in Transparent California 2024, and I really do appreciate that. One of the things that's relatively horrifying is when you compare this to the Calaveras County Transparency one, you've got all the bureaucrats for the first few pages with a couple of police sprinkled in, but in Calaveras you've got all law enforcement on the first couple of pages, and then it goes down to the administrators. I think probably as you guys are giving people haircuts here, you need to think about what Calaveras County has done in terms of raising the level of police enforcement. I think the county is fairly imploding just now, and when Brian Bell decided that he wouldn't even take the position for a short amount of time in the community service, the community development department, that was just really a damning statement. And something's got to be done so that we don't listen to staff recommendations anymore. Staff recommendations were used to basically vacate a piece of property near Twain Hart, right next to the Community Services District, and it took away a whole bunch of egress for people living on Wildwood and Shady Brook. That was done hand in hand by Kim McFarland as a retribution for a number of us trying to get egress at the end of our road, which is absolutely illegal. And it was done in context of bringing in a fire chief from the Twain Harte Community Services District to be an expert on wildfires and basically say we're all good without this easement. But in fact, they didn't bring in anybody from the state fire department, and it was vacating that was illegal, and it needs to be corrected. All the stuff that Kim did needs to be looked at and corrected. And this kind of stuff that Tracy Riggs had been doing was just appalling. And you had her in here last year for about $500,000. And we're going to get rid of Sarah over here, who wasn't really getting their job done. And it's no offense to them, but essentially we've had incompetence for years that the grand jury had to point out. I won't go any farther on that, but I will say that what's nice about your transparency thing here is that the Twain Harte Community Services District hasn't done one of these for 6 years. Nobody really knows what their costs are, but maybe a grand jury will find out. Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, do we have any additional oral communications for the board? Going once, going twice. All right, and we're closing oral communications. Again, thank you everybody that made time to come speak. It's your time and we appreciate the opportunity to listen to you. So, all right, we're gonna move on to staff reports. If I have a presentation or update for the board, please come forward. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Dory Beats, Tuolumne County Office of Emergency Services, and Dave is behind me, but I'm going to let him speak here just a second. Part of the role in OES is to educate and outreach, provide education and outreach, and we do that about preparedness, our role in response, and obviously resources for recovery. I just wanted to report out this month, staff have already gone to 3 different events. We've manned a booth up at the Tuolumne Miwok Health Fair talking about emergency alerts and some of our projects for community wildfire defense and home hardening. And then we also did a speaker series at Columbia, really engaging conversation and presented with fire prevention officers from CAL FIRE. And then most recently, we went to Groveland Community Service District and answered questions about alert and warning. So I just wanted to let the public know that we are always available and we continue to do education and outreach, whether it's to homeowners association, Firewise communities, school groups, you name it. We are always there trying to educate individuals and our community about preparedness and the resources that we have. So if anyone would like us to come speak, you can reach us at 209-533-6395. And with that, I'd like to introduce Dave about a little outreach.
Morning, Chairman.
Good morning.
This is just a follow-up. Last board meeting, I believe we introduced Lindsay Bartow, excuse me, a project manager for the California Wildfire Mitigation Program, which is a Ponderosa Hills targeted home hardening and defensible space grant that is going to be doing amazing work to improve the community resiliency for that particular community. Just a reminder, then an update from last year, a public information night for a week from tonight, Tuesday, August 26, 6 p.m. at the Tuolumne County Resilience Center. This is what the flyer looks like. I'll be sending out a mass emailing to all the folks who've signed up from the Ponderosa Hills community. Also, for the public, anytime you can get to a website from the the government website, just search CWMP and it'll take you right to this flyer and any updated information on the program. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any additional staff reports? Good morning.
Liz Peterson. Today I am here representing Recreation and Libraries. Just wanted to give you a few updates because summer is kind of closing, so just to let you know how things went. Our summer recreation program was, as usual, very well attended, very popular. It went very well. We had lots of kids participate. Thanks to Soulsville School for letting us use their facility. And then, of course, our pools were extremely busy this summer. we're just finishing out the rest of this week here with our Aquafit program, but we did Aquafit, which is like water aerobics. We've had many different sessions of swim lessons. We had summer, or we had family swim. We had all kinds of things happening at the pools, and a huge thanks to the team. We had a lot of lifeguards on staff this year, and we had really, really good training in place, and a huge thanks to Josh Martin for getting all of that set up. We didn't really have any major issues this year, and I'm just really proud of that. At Standard Park, we have currently done some improvements. We've put up some new fencing. We have taken down some of the green netting stuff that was starting to get really ratty and kind of not look so nice. We've done a ton of weed eating, and by we, really, I mostly mean actually the sheriff's jail work crew. Huge thank you to them for the dedicated work that they've done out there, and it's been amazing to have that level of support, to be able to be there and say, oh my gosh, can you please just help? Because it gets a little overwhelming. Things grow quite quickly. So huge thank you to that, or to them. We've done a lot of cleaning up around the shed and warehouse area in kind of the back corner. We've gotten rid of a ton of, tons literally, of like trash and just junk, and cleaning all of that out to make it more efficient and better use of space. We've actually done some work on the irrigation at Standard Park as well. And then we have already been doing some partnership with YSF, who share the field next door. We paint their fields. Of course, they pay us to do that, but we've got that robot painter, and so it works well to be able to share that resource. Some things that we have coming up on the plan for Standard Park is we are working to get new scoreboards. We are working to get new awnings, because those are also ratty and torn, and we are also working to, while we've done some irrigation sort of patching, we need to do some really irrigation overhaul, so we're working on that. And then we are also working on some additional parking, and hoping to have that in place very soon. And then continuing to partner with YSF. So we have a meeting with them next week where we're going to look at more opportunities for how we can partner, kind of sharing resources and even making access better and safer between the two fields. On Saturday, it was the first day of Tuolumne County Youth Soccer, and if you were driving by at all, you saw how crazy it was. I was there with my son, who was playing, and I just want to say that so Sierra Bible Church has been a great partner where they allow us to utilize their parking lot, and fortunately we've got that crosswalk there now, but they had a memorial service that was taking place, and so they were requested that we not use the parking lot. So huge thank you to TCTC, actually, who stepped up and offered shuttle service from the junction to the park, and so that was a way that we were able to still give access to the park, but they did that with like 3 days notice. So a huge thank you to them, to Tim and Tamara and everybody there. And then our groundskeepers, just a little update on them. We are in the process, if you didn't know, if the public wasn't aware, they've been operating out of a parking lot for about the last year. They've kind of got a shed out in the facilities building, but so we've been working to get them located actually at Standard Park in the warehouse shop area. And so a huge thank you once again to our facilities team and our IT team, who is getting everything that they need to be set up and successful there, and to our probation work crew, who's been doing some work out there as well for the team. And then of course our groundskeepers, who have just been like rolling up their sleeves and just making it all work. They've been amazing. If you didn't know, we have 4 groundskeepers and 64 properties that we maintain with those 4 folks, and they are amazing and dedicated and do a lot of really hard work on those 64 properties. And so we're working to not only get them a permanent place where they can live, but also we're working to integrate them a bit more with all of our other parks. There's been, in the past, it was, we kind of had parks and grounds sort of separated out, so we're working to get things more integrated. A great example is we've got a little tractor at Standard Park, and we were able to utilize that with the work that we did with the wood chips out at Heaven for Kids Park. And so we brought that tractor down, and it made, of course, the work way more efficient. So anyway, so that's some of the stuff that's going on in rec and grounds. And just an update in the library. We just finished our summer reading program. We had 455 kids sign up this year. Of all of the 28 events that we had throughout the library, all of our different branches, we had 1,366 people attend those events. Our children aged 7 to 12, they read a total of 910 books this summer. this summer. That was an increase of 253 books compared to last year. So the team does amazing work. I mean, if you've ever been in the library, well, if you've ever been in a library at all, it's amazing. But especially during the summer reading time, it's just like booming, and there's so much activity, and it's really, really exciting to see. And that's in all of our branches. And another thing I just want to highlight of what we have going on, among many other things, is we recently got some support from the state. A woman came and provided some like consultation services about our literacy program specifically, because we've had some trouble building that program up. And so we are going to be having a soft relaunch of our literacy program soon in the next couple months. So I don't have details yet, but stay tuned because we really want to start to get that literacy program out there in the community. It's a really great opportunity for folks who maybe want to learn some skills, who maybe want to, need some help applying for a job, or need to, want to learn, some specific things. And so we want to get tutors, and we also want to get learners. And so we're working to rebuild that program. So that's what I have for some updates for you all. Thanks.
Great, Liz. Thank you. All right. Do we have additional staff reports? Going once, going twice. All right. We'll close that item and bring it back to the board. So this is going to be a little different than we've normally done. One of the things is people tend to have energy at the beginning and be showing up, and then by the end of the meeting, it's kind of an empty room. So we wanted to move reports as a test run to the beginning. So if any board members would like to begin with a report.
I'll go, I guess.
Supervisor?
So I attended RCRC last week. They gave us a legislative update on different bills that are going on in the state that will affect us. Rural schools bill was definitely talked about, and the amount of money and how it could help us. The other meeting I attended while I was up there was the environmental protection thing that RCRC does, and that usually our solid waste manager goes, but I was up there, so I went. And the laws that are changing that we're exempt from right now until about 2030, I think, or 2032, where we'll have to start essentially composting, recycling food waste and other stuff in our county, which will become a huge problem for us being rural because we don't have a landfill and some other stuff. So we'll have significant challenges if that continues down the path we're on of how to accomplish that with what we have going on. So, but anyways, that's all I got.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate the update. Supervisor Griefer?
Oh, thank you. The only really thing that I have to report is over the weekend, we had an organization called FACTS, which is an organization in the county that is addressing the fentanyl problem, and they hand out Narcan and literature and test strips, and we had an event up at the Groveland area where we handed out, and I say we because I just was there, but they actually did all the hard work, 445 Narcan kits to give out to the community, especially in the Groveland area where it's a little bit more harder to get access to some of that stuff. So if you're familiar with this organization, I support them 100%. If you are unaware of them, look them up on, I think they have a Facebook page. We are addressing with the Sheriff's Department their TNT issues regarding that. So I just want to say that they did a great job, and I'm really appreciative of everything, the collaboration between the government and the sheriff and the nonprofits to address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll start at the end and work my way to the beginning. So I serve on the Area 12 Agency on Aging. We selected Joyce Preston as the new executive director after Kristen Milhoff, who's been an employee there for decades. I don't know exactly how long, but a very long time, retired. And so that's kind of a big deal for senior citizens in our community selecting that person. But I think she's going to be an excellent person to lead that agency. This week, we had meetings related to the Navigation Center, Standard Park, our Rural County Caucus had a meeting. We also had, let's see here. So I served on a YES partnership on Thursday last week, and that agency, one of the notable things, if you go to YES partnership, the primary crux of that agency is to prevent suicide amongst our youth. And if you go and you attend those meetings, you see nothing but, I'm probably one of the younger people in the room. And so there's been a big push to the credit of the Yes Partnership. They've really made a big push to be more inclusive of teens and youth. And so the plan is to hold the meetings. When it was first structured, the meetings were held at 3 o'clock so that kids, when they get out of school, they could attend the meetings. But now school day has been pushed later. And so we're pushing the Yes Partnership meetings later so that they can be held either at the school or students can attend them, which is a pretty big no-brainer, but also allowing more engagement to actually have youth be involved with structuring the agendas so that we're actually speaking to the things that matter to them. Also attended TCTC, Homelessness Committee, Station 58 Volunteer Fire Committee. That's outside of county roles, but I did attend that on Saturday. And then Supervisor Griefer and I attended a meeting with city leadership and various other scheduled and non-scheduled meetings.
Wonderful. Right. My update is was able to go speak with the local government committee with the Association of Realtors. Obviously, a lot happening with, I think, CDD. Both it's sad to see some people leave, but also I think an opportunity. So just clarifying that we really want everybody's input. And I think as we're making changes at the county, how we can best do this, what's going to be the best way to work with, especially folks who are using these services the most. So it was a discussion there about that. Also, want to give a highlight to two folks. One would be the Steve Frisch and Sierra Business Council. So they came down and did a reception, which was very nice, at the Armory of many of the local folks who have been working very hard with the Sierra Jobs First initiative, an economic development framework to bring in money for projects. It was great to be able to see everybody, a lot of community leaders there, as well as with a gal named Mary. Mary had questions on Facebook. She was curious about homelessness, some of the funding and where was it going, where was the project status, and luckily we had a very good presentation about a lot of this at the board. We had about I think a 4-hour discussion, and I encourage, and Supervisor Griffith encouraged too, that read that. Mary and I were able to go out for coffee, and we sat there for about 90 minutes going through funding streams, health and human services, the projects that worked, that didn't work, and kind of laying it out. And she made a very nice post afterwards. And I only wanted to highlight that, not only because Mary's cool, and you can do that, but please, there's a lot of folks who don't ever reach out to come sit for coffee with us, or a phone call, or whatever. They kind of jump to saying, well, I heard this, so I'm going to post it. It takes a lot more effort to kind of walk that back. So I wanted to highlight one really good example, which is, if you think you can't reach us, you have questions, give it a try. If you haven't given it a try, then you haven't given us a chance to try and let you know what's happening or correct it, or at least get our perspective. So I thought that was a really nice example. All right, if there's no more reports, we'll move on to the consent calendar, and I'll ask the board if there's any items we'd like to pull first. Okay, hearing none, if the clerk can read the consent calendar.
Item number 1, determining there is a need to continue the emergency actions ordered by the County Administrative Officer as a result of a plumbing failure and resulting water damage on April 3, 2025 at the AN Francisco Building located at 48 Yaney Avenue, Sonora, California, pursuant to Public Code Contract 22050 and TCOC 3.22.060 for FIS vote required. Item number 2, excuse me, approving the annual certification statements required by the Department of Healthcare Services for the California Children's Services Program and the Healthcare Program for Children in Foster Care for fiscal year 25-26, and authorizing the board chair and the county administrator to sign. Item number 3, adopting Resolution 57-25, approving grant agreement 25-10227 between the California Department of Public Health and the Tuolumne County Public Health Department to continue the Women, Infants, and Children program in the amount of $840,674 annually, commencing on October 1, 2025, and ending on September 30, 2028, authorizing the board chair to sign the grant agreement and authorize the county administrative officer to sign all further grant-related documents. Item number 4, adopting Resolution 58-25, recognizing August 19, 2025 through August 25, 2025 is the National Aviation Week. Item number 5, adopting Resolution 59-25, proclaiming August 2025 National Emergency Management Awareness Month. Item number 6, approving the submission of a grant application to the California Board of State and Community Corrections, BSCC, for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, JAG program, and authorize for the county administrative officer to sign all related documents. Item number 7, accepting the notice of completion for the Mono Way Operational and Safety Project, contract number 1657, and authorizing the chair to sign the notice. Item number 8, approving the updated bylaws of the Tuolumne County Behavioral Health Advisory Board. Item number 9, approving a letter of support for the reauthorization of the Secure Rural Schools Act. Item number 10, approving a letter of support for the More Opportunities for Rural Economic MORE grants. Item number 11, approving the appointment of Zach Abernathy and Diana Hartford to the first 5 Tuolumne County Commission with terms expiring on December 17, 2027 and August 19, 2028 respectively. Item number 12, adopting Resolution 60-25, approving Amendment number 1 to the 2025-2026 Tuolumne County Attorneys Association Memorandum of Understanding. Item number 13, adopting Resolution 61-25, approving the 2025-26 Tuolumne County tax rates pursuant to Government Code 29100.
Okay, wonderful. All right, we'll bring it to the board for any comments, then we'll open up for public comment before a vote. Supervisor Campbell?
Thank you, Chair Brandon. If you follow Board of Supervisors meetings, or have over the years, you've noticed that I have brought up secure rural schools many a time. And it is something that it's not a lot of money, but it is a significant amount of money for rural communities. And what secure rural schools is, it's money that's set aside for rural schools and counties in communities that have a lot of federally administered lands. It seems almost routine every year that this funding is delayed. Right now it's stalled in the House of Representatives, and I just cannot for the life of me understand why this is continually used as a political football at the federal level. What we're talking about is exactly what's in the name. It is funding for schools and for counties and roads. I mean, who is against that? But apparently there are people against it. And so it's something that's held up in the House of Representatives. It's not the first time this has happened. It seems to be a controversial, for some reason, issue. Every year it comes up. Sometimes it's not even approved. But we need Congress to act, and we need them to pass this legislation, increase it. Hasn't been increased for a number of years either, and do their jobs. Because we receive generally about $500,000 into Tuolumne County, and I think the schools get $1 million, which, you know, for a rural community like us is a significant amount of funding. So we need our leaders at the federal level to act. We need the House of Representatives to approve this, and so I very much support this letter being on there. So also wanted to thank Zach Abernathy and Diana Hartford for stepping up to continue to serve on the First 5 Commission. It's a group that deals with that critical first 5 years of a child's development, and I'm very grateful. It's one of the best groups we have in the county trying to serve our kids. So I appreciate anybody stepping up to serve on that committee.
Great. Thank you. Supervisor Griefer.
What he said. Really support the letter on the rural schools. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that Supervisor Campbell stated on that. I also want to say I appreciate everybody who is willing to take the time to volunteer. So Zach and Diana, I appreciate, if you're listening, that you are volunteering your time on that. I also want to recognize National Aviation Week. I am afraid to fly a small plane, anything that doesn't have a easy out. So I appreciate all the people who are willing to be out there and flying, and especially from where I live, I can see the planes coming and going of Pine Mountain Lake. So I know how important that is to a lot of people in our community and our society. And then lastly, as a former first responder, National Emergency Management Awareness Month. It takes a lot of people to make the successes happen. So I know it's easy to always thank the people you see on TV, but it's also important to thank the people that are answering the phones and doing the work and making sure that the sirens go when they need to go and all of that. So to our OES staff and to everybody who's a part of that, I thank you. I know the people in very rural areas thank you. So keep up the good work.
Great, thank you. And I echo my colleagues' comments on National Aviation Week and National Emergency Management Awareness Month. I also wanted to highlight that appreciate that we are setting forward support for bipartisan legislation that is trying to advocate to bring in funding to rural areas at the federal level, at the state level, and to echo also Supervisor Campbell's comments on secure rural schools. I'll say that we do have an item later on in the agenda. It's talking about the PILT fly-in. One of the kind of things with it is PILT and SRS in some ways are very similar. There's subventions back to us for the fact that 78% of our land is owned by the federal government, doesn't really pay any taxes, right? And so that puts us, people ask, well, why is the county always broke? This is one of the big reasons compared to, say, a Central Valley or an urban county. Property tax is the biggest base of funding that most counties get for anything. It is most of what we get, and yet 78% here does not pay that. So these funds are really critical, and I appreciate that we're sending this forward, and I hope we revisit this conversation a little later in the agenda. So with that, I'll open it up for any public comment on the consent calendar, and these are all considered together, and you'll have 3 minutes to be able to speak. I wonder which one you're speaking on.
Good morning, Board. Tanya Scheffner, Airport Manager for Tuolumne County Airports, and your humble new private pilot since May 30th.
Ooh, congrats.
Thank you. And so every day is Aviation Day to me, but I appreciate having this recognition for National Aviation Week. And I wanted to remind everyone that Pine Mountain Lake and Columbia Airport are important gateways for tourism, emergency response, and the local economy. And speaking of emergency response awareness, last year we had 264 calls from CAL FIRE that went out from our airport at Columbia. And this year alone, we've had four refueling of the Firehawk up at Pine Mountain Lake. So it's also an important airport for emergency response. PHI goes out daily, multiple times a day. They have over 365 calls a year. As you know, we can't keep this important asset going without all the support of the community and our amazing employees at Tuolumne County. So I wanted to take a moment to thank my airport technicians. We have Jeff Ingermiller, Mike Hamblin, Christian Sunian, and I remind them every day that what they're doing isn't just cutting down trees for the 20-to-1 transition zone or looking for foreign object debris on the runway, but they're saving lives every day by keeping our airports compliant and safe. I wanted to thank Blossom Scott Heim, my Public Works Director, and the Public Works team. I wanted to thank Roger Root for his help with the community at the airports, and the board, of course, for all your support. I think that this chapter is going to be a great chapter for aviation at Tuolumne County. Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning again.
Good morning. Yeah, airports. Good morning, Dory Beats, Tuolumne County Office of Emergency Services, and I'm joined also by Sarah Daniel and Dave Salzer of our office as well. We are dedicated to ensuring the safety and resilience of our community. As you know, effective disaster preparedness, response, and recovery are essential for protecting lives, property, and the economic well-being of our residents and communities. With this critical responsibility in mind, I want to bring to your attention significant changes currently underway within the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and the potential implications these changes may have on our ability to effectively manage future disasters in this county. FEMA, our essential federal partner, is undergoing significant transformation, affecting various aspects of its operations, from policy frameworks to funding mechanisms and staffing structures. While some of these changes may aim to improve efficiency, there is a growing concern within the emergency management community that they could unintentionally create challenges that adversely affect our local disaster response capabilities, particularly regarding staffing and financial resources. A robust and well-resourced state and local emergency management program serves as the frontline defense against crisis. We also rely on predictable federal support, clear guidance, and accessible resources to train our personnel, maintain essential equipment, develop comprehensive plans, and execute timely responses. Disruptions to FEMA's ability to provide this support, whether through reduced staffing, delayed funding, or shifting priorities, directly translate to increased risk for our community. We encourage you to recognize the critical importance of supporting local emergency managers during this period of uncertainty. Your advocacy and commitment are essential to ensure that our community stays prepared and protected. Our shared goal is a resilient community capable of withstanding and recovering from any challenge. By working together, we can mitigate the potential negative impacts of these federal shifts and ensure our emergency management capabilities remain strong and effective. Emergency managers are problem solvers. We are the ones you call 24/7, 365 days out of the year, when an incident requires coordination across multiple services, agencies, or disciplines, even beyond traditional public safety. We help communities and businesses understand their risks, build resilience, navigate crisis, and know what to do when disaster strikes. We are your emergency managers. We are also your neighbors. We are also chief risk advisors for the communities and businesses and organizations we serve. We are more than lights and sirens. We are the professionals every community needs, not just as much as fire, law enforcement, or EMS, but we are a part of that team. And we are very fortunate that all of you support the work that we do, and we are thankful that your commitment to public safety and for considering proclaiming and recognizing National Emergency Management Month here in Tuolumne County. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, do we have additional public comments on the consent calendar? Going once, going twice. Oh, I thought you were getting up to speak. All right, I will close public comment on these items and bring it back to the board. If there's no further comments or discussion, I'll be looking for a motion to approve.
Chair, I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
All right, we have a first by Supervisor Campbell.
Second.
We have a second by Supervisor Griefer.
Thank you.
With that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstaining, passes unanimously 4-0-1 with Supervisor Kirk absent. Okay, with that, we've got. Do you think we'll be able to handle 14 very quickly, or should we take a 5-minute recess until the 10 a.m.? Let's take a 5-minute recess to set up for the first 10 a.m. appointment. I believe we have a Zoom with our packet representative here that'll be on. So we'll reconvene at 10 a.m. Okay, we're reconvening the Board of Supervisors meeting. It's 10 a.m. We're going to begin our first 10 a.m. appointment. If our board clerk can read the item.
Item number 14, consideration of adopting Resolution 62-25, authorizing the interim county administrative officer to act as the Community Development Department CDD Assistant CDD Director during the vacancy, and discussion and direction regarding the recruitment of an interim/permanent CDD Director.
Supervisor Brandon, we have a 10 a.m. appointment to talk about the CAO piece, so can we do that one first? Since that's
I'm sorry, wasn't that the first? Yeah, the first 10 a.m. appointment.
Right, the 10 a.m. appointment. So you read the CDD one. We need the 10 a.m. the first 10 a.m. appointment.
Oh, we read the agenda item. I see.
Correct.
Yeah.
We just need to read the correct one.
Sorry, the language was similar enough. I was it passed muster in the ears. Yeah, if we can read the first 10 a.m. appointment.
10 a.m. number 1, discussion and direction to staff and the executive recruitment firm WBCP Inc. regarding the county administrative officer recruitment process.
Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Deborah Showman, Human Resources and Risk Management. The item before you is an introduction and a discussion with Terry
You might want to
Moss.
bring the mic a little bit closer to you so the folks in the back can hear.
Normally my voice is loud enough for that, but apologies. Deborah Showman, Human Resources and Risk Management. The item before you today is an introduction to and a discussion with Terry Moss-Nisich. She is our Senior Executive Recruiter from WBCP, who we have retained to manage our CAO recruitment. Today's discussion will include the recruitment process, including stakeholder engagement and associated timelines. Terry, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. I cannot see the board, so hopefully you can hear and see me okay.
And Terry, let us know. We either have you on screen or we have the presentation on screen. So if you need the presentation, we'll switch on over, okay?
Great. Why don't we go ahead and bring up the presentation, and then ideally Deborah can move through that for me.
Will do.
Thank you. All right. Would you like me to go ahead and get started, Chair?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me this morning. Again, my name is Terry Nisich, and I'm with WBCP. Chair, members of the board, I'll be working to lead your recruitment for your next county administrative officer. So why don't we go ahead and bring up the third slide, Deborah, that is indicates 6 steps to results.
Okay, we're up.
Okay, wonderful. And you'll have to cue me through that since I cannot see it. So this is just a quick overview of how we conduct our recruitments, and I think this sets the stage nicely for some of the questions that I'll be posing to your board today to get direction on how to best structure the recruitment overall to meet your needs and find your next county administrative officer. We begin with our client kickoff. We've already met with your HR team. They've given quite a bit of information this far with the documents we need to begin our formulation of the recruitment. We're also in the process of speaking with stakeholders and understanding a little bit more about your specific needs as board members and perhaps some additional needs throughout the organization and community. And that would be one of your decision points and ideally direction to me today regarding stakeholder engagement. Based on our feedback from the individuals, we then begin developing overall competency profile for the position. We use that to then create our announcement on our recruitment information for the individual. We then launch a strategic marketing campaign. We do both printed material and we use a lot of online and social media work to also glean candidates. We also use a number of different platforms, one of which is Zoom Info, where we can get directly to the organization and outreach directly to candidates. We pride ourselves on the fact that we do a lot of sourcing. We are making a number of phone calls to candidates that we're aware of and those that we believe meet the qualifications that you set for us. We then move to our candidate screenings. I will phone screen those individuals that we believe the qualifications that you've set forth for us. And then we move to a shortlist process. And what that is sitting down with the hiring authority, you as the Board of Supervisors, and presenting a list of candidates, their background, experience, why we believe your qualifications, and make a selection of who you'd like to move to the interview stage of the process. So again, that's called the shortlist. You can see that on a timeline as I bring that up. We then move into interviews, and I'll discuss that in a bit. We'll need some of your direction again on how to actually structure those to meet your needs. And then at the end of the interview process, once you've selected a candidate, we do a complete background and reference check. That is a 360 reference check. When we're calling individuals, we have a background firm that does that for us. And then we also, of course, do education, credit, and criminal check so that the candidates are fully vetted before any formal offers. That's just a very quick overview of the process, but we'll get into the details of that and how to best structure that to meet your needs, as I mentioned. So let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
So the direction that I'm requesting from you today is input on the timeline, as well as input on the stakeholder engagement approach, and how to structure those interview panels. So let's move to the next slide, which is the timeline. So on your screen, you should have something that has a number of dates. It's timeline driven and outcome focused. As we mentioned, we're already been working with the HR team and having conversations with folks about how to best prepare and what is your ideal candidate. We'd like to open the recruitment, which means having all of the information gathered in your direction to us in place so that we can open and launch this on between 8/28 and 9/2. We typically keep a recruitment open for a month. We found that that is really that sweet spot. Folks are interested, they want to move forward, stay engaged. Any longer than that, candidates tend to drop off. They may be involved in other engagements, other recruitments. We're then suggesting we conduct that short list that I talked about, which is again the board's review of candidates and a selection of those individuals to move forward to the interview process. We've noted that date potentially as 10/7, which I believe is one of your regular meetings. County Council can best advise, but that would be a closed session as a personnel item to review those items. We then move to our first day of interview. We typically recommend a two-pronged approach, a day one and day two process. Day one is a larger cohort of individuals. And then day two is obviously those individuals that you've narrowed down to probably a smaller cohort between 3 and 4 to participate in those second day interviews. And obviously from there, we have candidate selection. I am recommending a approach, 10/16 and 10/17. That is a Thursday and Friday. Again, that would likely entail a special meeting if the board chooses to be involved in both days. And that's, again, one of our items for discussion.
And Terry, I don't know if there's something that might be on your side, but it is cutting a little bit in and out. It's making it a little hard to hear.
We're missing some of the critical words. So
Okay, can you
we'll
hear
hear
me
9 out of
better?
10
I'm
words,
moving
but
in
the 10th word is always the one that I want to hear. So
Let me restate then. What I have up on the screen is a proposed schedule for the interview. Let me back up a bit. I noted that we would like to open by the end of August, between 8/28 and 9/2. Close that on 9/30, giving us a month opening. And then shortlisting, which is more review of the candidates and selecting those to move forward on 10/7, which I believe is one of your regular meetings. And then a two-pronged approach to interviews. And I'm suggesting back-to-back on a Thursday and a Friday, 10/16 and 10/17. And again, we'd certainly rely on your county council, but I believe those would need to be noticed meetings if the board chooses to be involved in both day one and day two. And that's a point of discussion coming forward. So ideally, you've heard that. And do you have any thoughts about the schedule? Can I get direction or confirmation of this proposed schedule?
If there's any board comment, please provide. So I think we're just listening and it sounds fine.
If that's the case, then I will obviously work with HR to secure those dates on your calendar, work with your county clerk to make sure that everything is managed and so that it's noticed, et cetera. We will work with your team to make sure that those dates are secured and obviously appropriately noticed. Can everybody hear me better now? Is that coming through better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I can hear a little bit of feedback, so. Okay, let's move on to recommended stakeholder options. If we could go to the next slide.
It's done.
Thank you, Deborah. And there's two components to stakeholder engagement. As you note here, I have community engagement and employee engagement. And this helps inform the panels as well. What we have done in the past and typically recommend is some level of community engagement. We can do a survey of your community, which is relatively short. We can work with your information teams on providing information over social media. And what we're looking for is general input regarding the competencies of the individual, leadership traits, communication, interpersonal skills. So it's a relatively short survey, but it really gives us some information to glean. And we use that information when preparing questions, assessment, and frankly, assessing the candidate and their overall skills and abilities as it relates to what the board has shared with us, as well as the community. So we do strongly recommend a community survey. Again, very short. It is all part of the cost. There's no additional costs associated with that. And oftentimes we do reach out to key members of the community to also glean their insights as well. On the employee engagement side, we recommend engaging with the department head team and getting their insights. That can either be done during a survey, one-on-one interviews, or a group meeting, which I'm happy to conduct. And an employee survey. Much like the community survey, very short, really assessing top skills and abilities desired in an individual. And it can go to the full employee organization or a component of the organization. It can go to just department heads, maybe your management team, or the full employee or the full organization, depending on your needs. So if we can stay on community engagement at this point, or share, if you could best direct me if you'd like to give overall direction at the end. I would appreciate feedback from the board on overall approach to community engagement, what you would like to see there, as well as employee engagement. Again, our recommendation is a community survey typically, and with employee engagement, reaching out to your department heads, getting some additional insights, and conducting some form of an employee survey.
And Terry, if I can ask maybe a clarifying question on that. My understanding from your presentation is this is a fairly package deal process that you go through, and you're also going to be first meeting with each of the individual board members.
Yes.
Right, and so maybe, I think what we're deciding is if we're moving forward or not mostly today, and a little less of whether, like, what type of form we're gonna do for a survey. We might be able to do that administratively.
Yes, and if I get general direction of yes or no, we would like a survey, or yes or no, we would like community engagement, then I can repackage it for your team as well.
Leave it to the board on this item here for stakeholder engagement. Supervisor Griefer?
I guess I'm not sure what we're actually, are we moving forward on each item here as a discussion point? With that being said, I'm in favor of a department head survey and maybe the department heads and their second in commands. I don't think anything lower than that could get a little more muddy. And if we're doing community engagement, I would be okay reaching out to some of our partners, maybe the head of the hospital, the sheriff's department, other individuals that operate large organizations. So if that's what we're asking, we're doing, then that's what I think that's what I would like to see done.
Okay. And I think that's the feedback we're going for, right?
Well-
I agree with that. I think it's fair to survey employees for one that we may email out, which is easy, and the department head interviews make sense. I would recommend for community engagement that we would, from various feedback, try to have some type of panel interview where people are able to provide input, but heads of community organizations representing different districts, straw poll input from online. I don't want you wading through 80% of comments that might not be folks who have actually interacted with the county in a professional way. I want it to be ones that, both good and bad, have had interactions in business with the county, so.
But I think,
Well, Supervisor Campbell, and then I'll.
Well, I was going to, what were you saying, because I really think that we do need to have an employee survey. Were you saying not do that, or?
No, I'm saying, so we don't want analysis paralysis, right? The individual who is, doing a very specific job for the county may not know or care what we're looking for the CAO. So I think if we do an employee survey, so 2 points. So the employee survey should, in my opinion, should be the department heads and their second in commands. I don't think we need to go any lower, into that. Because as we heard through other statements, some of the employees don't trust the survey process. They don't trust that the information is going to be used correctly. So with that being said, I would just leave it the top two. But additionally, I don't think the board should be a part of the survey process either. We're going to give this individual, the team here, direction on how we want to hire this individual, or what we're looking for. So I think if there is a survey that goes out, let them handle the survey, get the feedback from whoever we decide that we want to send that survey out to, keeps us out of it. So when it comes time for us to do the hiring decision-making, we are open-minded and we're not tainted one way or the other for somebody or something. So that would just be my 2 points is one, department heads, one layer down, and then the community engagement, which is I stated earlier.
I agree with you on that last point. I think the board should be engaged at the very end of the process. Well, not the very end, but toward the end of the process. But, to the point of employees not feeling, I guess, to use your term, not trusting the survey process, excluding them from that process, I don't think is the way to get them to trust it more. I think that, we have had a lot of high-profile departures of department heads, so our depth of experience in several key departments is pretty shallow right now. And so I think where that experience exists now is among the rank-and-file employees of the county. So obviously, you don't want to have hundreds and hundreds of responses, but I think effectively, if we put the survey out there, I think it will be manageable if we just have it available to all employees. You never know. You might have somebody that's only worked for the county for a couple of years that would have some pretty valuable feedback. But we'll never know that unless we have them engaged in the conversation. And I think even just the fact of it being open to them, whether they respond or not, I think there's a value in how the employees feel that their voices are heard.
Right, and maybe I was taken out of context. What I'm saying is I'm not discounting what the employees are saying. I'm just saying that there comes a point where any organization is going to say, if we're looking for the new head of Starbucks, the barista, as valuable as that person is to the organization, may not have the insight or knowledge to find that CAO or to find that next person. If we want to do a survey to all of the employees to say, hey, how can this government run better? I'm all for that. But I think we need to just make sure that we are pinpoint targeted on what we want to do, or we'll never hit those deadlines.
If I may jump in.
I think we're splitting the hair on
Right.
this. I think we agree, but I'm just saying, do we really want to send a survey out to 700 employees to look for somebody who's going to be the head of this
Here's what I want to
organization?
do. I want to ask Terry if Terry has a recommendation on this, and then, and I know you're going to say it's up to us. The goal would be you have a recommendation on what you think has worked best and best practice. We can do a vote on one of them, and either way, that way we can move forward. Is that fine? Terry, can you weigh in on that?
Absolutely. Let's stay on employee engagement. Yes. What I typically recommend, and I think works well, we can definitely handle any size of a survey. I just want to assure you of that. I recommend that we do a meeting with department heads, or I meet with them either one-on-one to glean some of their input. And then I would encourage a all-employee survey just based on the feedback I've had to date. Now, we can parse that so that it's divided between department heads. So I'm segregating department head input from all-employee input. It is relatively simple for us to do. So I would encourage you to cast the wider net and the employee survey.
Okay, so on the head, recommendation would be from the consultant that we would do an all-employee survey. Can we just do a raise of hands really quick? And if we have 3 on either, then we'll do that. How's that?
Yeah, you don't need to do it. I mean, I'll go with the majority. That's easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So all employee, wonderful.
Mike, don't talk so much. Okay, okay, I think you've got direction on that one.
Thank you. Do you have any thoughts about approach to community engagement? Again, did I hear, it seemed like there was consensus on a survey, but I just wanted to confirm as I couldn't hear very clearly on approach to community engagement.
Personally, I'm okay with you pulling together an entire recruitment process because I think that's why we're hiring you, for your expertise into it. Some of these things I think they're decisions that would be probably better left to you.
Okay.
That's just my
Then
personal
will-
opinion. I mean, I don't know that whether we do a survey or interviews, you know your process and what's worked.
Well, that's kind of where I was coming from, is that we're not the first county that's been in the position, not even the first county in the past couple of months that's been in the position of looking for a new CAO. So
weeks,
whatever process has been most effective, I think that's where we want to go. I mean, I don't see how we could hire a CAO without having community engagement or employee engagement. So
If I
I
could
guess
make
that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, a recommendation on that maybe would be, Terry, if you take this and I think we can talk today about direction to move forward as presented. If it was followed up with, here's how we're doing it, we can bring up any
Absolutely.
concerns, and if that is serious enough to warrant discussion, we can figure that out with Roger and do that. But I'm not getting the impression that we're gonna have anything in here that's I mean, strong opinions about how this process goes. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay. There you got direction.
Wonderful. And I appreciate
Yeah.
that. There is one area I do need your input on. This
Okay.
may have a little bit of conversation, but I can absolutely run with that direction. I appreciate that trust. And yes, to the supervisor's point, we've done multiple city manager, county executive. We're engaged in a number currently. And what I'm presenting to you is what we've seen as best practices and work the best and tend to give us the most information to draw on to help bring forward candidates. If we can move, Deborah, to slide 8 in the interest of time. It's titled Panel Coordination and Interview Logistics.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that up? It looks like it might. I can now see your board, so.
Yes, it's up.
Now, this is where there's a series of options for you in terms of day 1 and day 2 interviews. I appreciate us agreeing on that approach of a back-to-back. I've presented a couple options to you for consideration. Obviously, this is the full Board of Supervisors appointment, their decision, but I've provided some options that have varying level of engagement, and I will provide you with a recommendation as well. Option 1 is to have the panel be solely the board on day 1 and day 2. That would, of course, be taking in all of the information we see from the stakeholder input and engagement, but the board is interviewing the larger group of individuals and narrowing it down to the smaller group of individuals for day 2.
And
That
Terry,
is option 1.
I want to jump into and ask council and HR real quick if this would be an open item, this would be a closed session item, since it is sort of personnel, but we've had this differently in the past.
Right, no, when you're interviewing appointed department heads, they're in closed session appointment
Okay.
interviews.
Thank you. Please continue.
Absolutely. And so as I mentioned previously, we'd work with your county clerk to make sure that those were appropriately noticed meetings in closed session, of course. Option 2 is the full board, again, engaged on that first day, either as observers, just to listen and observe the panels, or actively engaged in the interview process, formally posing questions, scenarios, etc. And then introducing a second panel of stakeholders, which could be representatives of your community. It could be a department head. It could be that reflection of your community. The purpose of that panel is to receive additional insights and input on the candidates. They do not make decisions. They solely make a recommendation on a ranking of candidates. It's solely the board's decision on who they may or may not want to move forward, but the stakeholders and I will debrief the panel. And I should say that we are with you throughout these, we'll be with you throughout these panels. So that is option 2, and then day 2 again would be the full board. Option 3 would be not having the board on day 1 and only having a stakeholder panel. I would need board engagement at the end of the day for the stakeholders to debrief you so that you again could make those decisions about who to bring forward. So it would be a smaller commitment, most likely at the end of the day.
Okay.
And
Thank
then
you.
again, obviously, day 2 is your full board.
We'll bring it back for that. Do we have any discussion we'd like to have on it? Would we be ready to kind of throw thumbs on this for what option we like? Supervisor Holland?
I like option 2.
I like option 2. Is that consensus?
Sure.
All right, you have consensus, option 2.
Is that
Okay, we will work then on.
that's
Oh, wait,
building out
1
that
second,
panel
Terry.
as well.
is that the one she was recommending?
That I don't know.
Yes.
Terry, did you have a
Okay.
recommendation?
Option 2.
Okay. I'm fine
Okay.
with option 2.
Great then. You have, sounds like consensus to move forward, and then I think you're going to follow up with the kind of some of the decisions operationally on this, so we're informed of it. And then you have direction, correct? Do you need a vote on this? I don't believe we
need
do.
public
I have what I
comment.
need.
Okay.
We need public comment, Supervisor.
Great, we'll do that. All right, so Terry, thank you for presenting, I appreciate that. Before we go to public comment, just one thing to the public. We talked about this at the beginning of the year as we had a CEO change, but this is always kind of the expected process we were going through, was to wait until after budget, to then be able to go through a process to bring in the most qualified leadership. So thank you to staff for bringing forward this process, and to Terry for presenting that it's not a crisis with it. I think Roger's been holding down the fort and doing a really good job with the team. This is, this is kind of how we were expecting, I think, this to go. So with that, we're going to open up public comment on this item. Again, this is item first 10 a.m. appointment, discussion, and direction regarding the administrative officer, county administrative officer recruitment process. Any members of the public like to speak? Please indicate so. Good morning again.
I'm always an advocate for the public to be involved, and so I can understand how you can't have everybody involved. But people that do touch the county administrator's office are some of the people that are on the county committees. And so they would have some experience and some knowledge about the county and how it is being run. So you might consider using some of those public members in the survey. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I must have missed the memo. When did God die and appoint some of you? The uppity, condescending arrogance I'm hearing, and the disrespect, dismissiveness, and disdain I hear for the public is very offensive. And to say that you don't want any strong opinions from the community, are you kidding me? You work for the public, whether you want to acknowledge us or not. And all the county employees also work for the public. And we deserve the right to participate. And clearly, since you've all acted like a bunch of country bumpkins and haven't done a good job, we're now in the mess we're in. And there have been an awful lot of secret meetings and hidden meetings and all kinds of things going on. And you've had these stakeholders and these advisors, and they're all the same group of people for the last 10 years. And I can't see that they've made much of a difference. So I would like to see some branching out and include other people of the public who don't trust you now and are looking for some input to make some decisions to make our community better. Because you've all been in office now for at least 7 months. And I would look at everyone and say, are we better today since you've been in office? Well, I'm glad you think so, Mr. Holland. Thank you for saying that.
Great. Thank you. Do we have additional public comment on this item? Good morning again.
Good morning once again, and I concur at least partly with the previous speaker. One of the things in the past that my neighborhood and I have had is a lack of transparency and what I would call gaslighting. And I look on this as hopefully an opportunity for positive change. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have additional public comment on this item? Going once, going twice? All right, we're closing public comment. I believe direction is given, and that concludes our first 10 a.m. appointment. Terry, thank you for being with us. We're going to kick you off the Zoom and give you back your day.
Absolutely. Thank you, board members. I appreciate it and look forward to working with you. Have a good day.
Good hunting. And Deb, thank you so much for presenting. Appreciate it. We're going to be going into our second 10 a.m. appointment. If the clerk can read the item.
10 a.m. to Central Sierra Economic Development District, CSEDD, presentation and update on economic development initiatives.
Great. And we'll invite our CSEDD representatives up here to the, what do we call that? The table, the mini dais, the side dais, to the side dais for the presentation. Do you need anything to be set up for the screens in that?
Is the presentation preloaded onto the laptop here?
Great.
Okay. All right. Good morning, Chair Brandon, supervisors and staff. Happy to be here this morning to present an update. I've been in my role for about 18 months now and last presented to this board about a year ago. So working on doing county outreach to all the Central Sierra Economic Development District counties, obviously including Tuolumne County. So thank you for having us. My name's Alex Bloom. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the Central Sierra Economic Development District, as well as Motherlode Job Training, the administrative arm of our Workforce Development Board. And I'm also pleased to introduce you to Sophia Kaufman this morning, our newest addition to the Business Services team. I'll let her introduce herself.
Good morning, board. My name is Sophia Kaufman. I currently serve as a project coordinator and sector navigator at Motherlode Job Training, and I am honored to assist Alex in Central Sierra Economic Development District efforts.
Welcome, and thank you guys for coming to present.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll try to be as pithy as possible this morning. We have quite a bevy of information to convey, but lots of good stuff here, and I'll just get right into it. I won't waste any
And could you give us the real quick 30 seconds what CSEDD is?
Absolutely. So the Central Sierra Economic Development District is our regional federally sanctioned economic development administration district. So we represent Tuolumne, Mariposa, Calaveras, Amador, and Alpine counties, and all things economic development. We manage and steward a number of different grants here for the region and are continuously working to promote economic prosperity for the Central Sierras.
And our friends in Sonora and Angels Camp.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The cities of Sonora and Angels Camp as well included in that. So a quick overview of our agenda. We'll talk a little bit about the California Jobs First initiative. Chair Brandon had lightly mentioned that earlier in the meeting. I'll provide an update on our California Advanced Services Grant, which is our broadband initiative here for the Central Sierras. We'll talk a little bit about our funding sources and sustainability for these projects. I also gave a report out to the Central Sierra Economic Development District Board regarding our economic development strategy. That's a yearly update where we kind of look back at the goals and strategies for our region in promoting economic prosperity. So we'll run through that and then talk about some of our regional activities and then leave time for discussion and questions and answers. So California Jobs First, a quick overview of what California Jobs First is, and then I'll kind of dive into what the project updates are. California Jobs First is a statewide workforce and economic development initiative. This was brought on by reallocation of COVID relief funds, where the state sectioned into 13 regions to promote workforce and economic development. Our region, the Sierra region, is inclusive of all the economic development district counties, as well as our friends on the other side of the Sierras, Inyo and Mono counties. Our role has varied throughout this process, and we played a very important role in developing and implementing this initiative. So we started in the implementation phase, or we're transitioning to the implementation phase. We started by providing technical assistance. So there were 40 projects that received funding throughout this region, representing all 5 core industry sectors, which are sustainable agriculture, natural and working lands, community healthcare, clean energy, and sustainable recreation and tourism. So Motherlode Job Training and the Central Sierra Economic Development District are the stewards for the sustainable agriculture, natural and working lands, and community healthcare sectors, with our partners MLTPA and Sierra Focus Media representing the sustainable recreation and tourism sector. Clean energy is represented by Sierra Business Council. So our role in the initial stages was to provide technical assistance to projects, aligning them with statewide criteria. Alongside the California Jobs First initiative, the governor released the California State Economic Blueprint, where we were able to align our regional strategies with larger statewide strategies. For our region, the bioeconomy has been succinctly identified as our core tenet when it applies to the state economic blueprint. So when we were thinking about implementing strategies and tactics to align with these state economic blueprint, we were very cognizant of projects that we could promote within region. Our role currently includes sector navigation. You may be saying, what does sector navigation mean? Well, Motherlode Job Training and the Economic Development District have been working hard for many, many years to promote workforce and economic development in this region. So sector navigation is just furthering those responsibilities, convening with stakeholders, engaging all the different projects and coordinators within the initiative, and thinking about relationship management, building connections. One of the things we've identified in this process is the dissonance between the east and west side of the Sierra. So really working to bridge those connections and make this region whole. The state has identified this region as a region for future funding. So there are already initiatives that are aligning with the Sierra region as it was, including K-16 and other Department of Labor funds that will kind of continue the work that we're doing within this California Jobs First process. So now we're in the project phase. So those 40 projects received $9 million. There's a $9 million influx into our region of projects that support these industry sectors, as well as foundational elements such as childcare, entrepreneurship, and infrastructure. So really working to think about how do we bring all these things together to drive impact within our region. I think impact is really, really important to this region. This is a region that values impact and action over words. So really working to push these projects towards developing impact and impact statements for this project. Convening has been an important part of these responsibilities. So we have executed working groups in all 3 of our assigned sectors, as well as hosted a sector-style partnership meeting in the healthcare sector. This was a really huge step. This is something that really hasn't been done for this region before, in creating a sector-style conference for the healthcare sector. So really thinking about ways that we can convene these partners and develop workforce pathways to align with the healthcare industry. We will also be executing a conference-style sector partnership for the natural and working lands and sustainable agriculture sectors this fall. An important part of our responsibilities aligning with those sector navigation responsibilities is developing what are called activation plans. So in the development of this California Jobs First initiative, we developed a regional strategy, which very much aligns with the CSED Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, but has some differences. Based on that regional strategy, we developed activation plans. So in the regional strategy, it says, here are the strategies that we have for our region, and here are the concerns, and here's the workforce. These activation plans took that information and really drove to develop impact, again, with those regional strategies. So how do we take those and develop them into strategies and tactics for implementation? How do we use our projects to promote more sustainable economic development? So these plans were actually delivered to the state about 2 months ago, and actually will be considered into comprehensive economic development strategies for our region. So really implementing these 2 projects with the comprehensive economic development strategy for the region and thinking about ways we can integrate with the California Jobs First process has been critically important as we think about further regionality and sustainability for economic development. So I also have some very, very exciting news to bring to the board today. We have 2 very important projects that CSED has been an important part of CSED's submission to the California Jobs First process was called Sierra Founders Academy. This is a really important initiative. This is something that was brought on both by my personal passion and professional passion surrounding entrepreneurship. One of the key problems or key issues we've identified with this region is we have a significant issue with youth outmigration, connection to community, business development, and really thinking about ways that we can engender connection to our professionals and community members that really support economic development. So working back from that problem statement, I developed this project submission called Sierra Founders Academy. This project will implement entrepreneurship training for the entire region, so 7 counties. We will be having 7 different cohorts where we will help youth age 14 to 24 develop business plans, have financial literacy training, get education on marketing, and connect with industry professionals to develop these business plans into something that will actually culminate in a Shark Tank-like competition where we will actually fund 5 businesses. We will provide startup funding for these businesses. The funding landscape is incredibly difficult right now. Interest rates are high, so providing these micro grants to these businesses will really give them a lift up into being able to start businesses. The hope is to have these be sustainable, and one of the goals and metrics associated with this project is to have these businesses, at least 80% of them, will continue to engage within the region after 1 year. Another important project is the Sierra Sourced project. This is sponsored by the Tuolumne Chamber of Commerce and Mac Alvin. This is a project that we've been very, very closely monitoring and working with, which will promote regional development of small business as well by co-marketing and co-branding them with larger businesses, specifically those in Tuolumne County, thinking about businesses like Diestel Turkey and Indigene. So it will really provide a significant lift to regional small businesses. Over 90% of our regional businesses have 7 employees or fewer, so this is a region that is built on the backs of small business. So these 2 initiatives kind of take that into mind, really thinking about ways that we can continue to promote small business within the region. Oops, skipped one there. All right, so transitioning to our California Advanced Services Grant update. So this is a broadband infrastructure grant where we are working mostly as a partner to support broadband development in this region. Sophia and I aren't actually out digging trenches and laying cables or anything like that, but really supporting the small internet service providers that support broadband expansion in this region. We recently concluded our speed test initiative. This is an initiative that has been put on by Tuolumne County in the past, but we really wanted to further those efforts. These speed tests will actually help to promote connection in unserved and underserved communities. So what we do is we ask the community to provide a speed test. It's similar to any speed test you've gone and taken before in the past. We then take those results to the state of California and to the NTIA, which is a federal organization, to challenge what providers are actually saying that they're providing and holding them accountable. This will also help us to serve underserved and unserved areas by pushing for broadband expansion. This speed test generated over 100 unique results, which is about 3 times the amount that Tuolumne County was able to garner. We'll be able to really take those results and provide connectivity to our communities. There's a link there at the bottom. You can actually click and use the application, but we're really excited about this and we'll continue this work. Another big part of this campaign, when we're talking about the Advanced Services Fund grant, has been our marketing and outreach efforts. And I will hand the mic over to Sophia to talk a little bit about our marketing and outreach.
So as part of this campaign, it's our duty to educate the public on why we need to expand broadband in the area. It's critical to a variety of functions in our community, including emergency preparedness, et cetera. And so we have been working with a cohort at Cal State University of Fullerton, and it is a capstone class. And so we've been working with a team of marketing students to not only expand our capacity and our ability to communicate with the CSED region, but also to provide that education on why it's important for constituents throughout the region to take the speed test and help us gather the data that we need to inform future efforts. This has gone really well. We've done a great job to expand awareness not only of Central Sierra Economic Development District, but as well as the speed test. We're very happy with the results that we've received thus far. And it's been fun to work with students and give them some real world examples of what it's like to work with a client and expand awareness, especially in rural communities. The Cal State Fullerton is located in a much different area, so it's been interesting to learn alongside them how best to engage rural communities.
Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, education and outreach is such a critical component of everything we do, but specifically with a project like this where the public may be generally unaware of why we're doing it and thinking about what is the economic development district's relationship with a project like this. So really important to provide that education and outreach. We also have upcoming our 4th iteration of our subject matter expert panel. This has been a very successful initiative where we convene all local internet service providers, IT professionals from counties, private organizations, as well as community-based organizations that have a stake in the ongoing implementation of broadband infrastructure for the region. One thing that I would like to point out, the Golden State Connect Authority, which is the broadband arm of the RCRC, has been highly influential in these activities. They promote an open access model, which is really, really important for this region because there are many areas within the region that only have one provider. What the open access model will do will promote competitiveness within the marketplace. So by opening up their infrastructure, they will actually go and take the initial cost of building out the infrastructure, which is generally the highest cost associated with projects like this, and then lease that fiber to the local internet service providers. So it will create competitiveness within the marketplace and give our consumers choice. Often broadband is very, very highly priced in this region, so I think it'll drive down price and really make it more available to our constituents. A quick overview of the money coming to this region based on a result of CSED support and working with some of those partners. So we supported the Sierra Nevada communications applications for Tuolumne County, which were granted, as well as supporting the Golden State Connect Authority application. So when we look at the region, we're really talking about significant money, about $120 million in broadband connectivity coming to this region over the next 3 years. Specifically in Tuolumne County, we have those awards to Sierra Nevada, as well as the shared award with Mariposa and Stanislaus County. So in Tuolumne County, we're looking at about $7 or $8 million coming to broadband infrastructure for the region, which will really, really help develop connectivity. And like Sophia said, aid in emergency services, ability for businesses to work remotely, students to be able to access educational resources. It will really provide a significant boon to this region. As part of my work at the Economic Development District, it's really crucial to promote awareness of what we do. So this is just a little graphic of when we started our awareness campaign. Sophia has been highly influential in developing this awareness campaign. We went from having 0 to 10 unique visitors to our site to having several hundred a day. So this has really been a targeted initiative in developing awareness around what we do and how we work within the region, and has been quite successful and something that we intend to continue in the future as we continue to develop awareness and recognition for the work that we're doing within this region. A quick note about funding sources and sustainability. So when I came into this role, we were just stewarding that California Advanced Services grant at about $595,000. Since then, we've nearly doubled or more than doubled that budget. We also have 3 pending applications. The Department of Labor Healthcare was actually granted. That's about $270,000 that will help us to promote that industry sector partnership work in the healthcare industry. We have a rural EV charging opportunity that will bring a significant amount of rural EV charging locations to the Central Sierras, which will promote tourism in the region. And then we have a farmers market promotion grant that will align with our sustainable agriculture work. So really thinking about ways that we can sustain the work that we're doing and continue our relationship in those critical sectors. I'm going to give a quick overview on our economic development strategy. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just a quick report out to this board about the progress we've made. These 4 goals are taken directly from our economic development strategy. So quick highlight overview: 1, achieving a culture of lifelong learning; 2, establishing programs, policies, and practices that support economic development while respecting the historic and cultural nature of our region; 3, expanding the economic development capacity through collaboration; and 4, implementing land management practices that incorporate resiliency and place-based initiatives. So a lot of the progress we've made with goal number 1 has been in support of CTE. CTE in Tuolumne County, CTE is Career and Technical Education, has been a huge push in Tuolumne County, particularly by the Sonora Area Foundation's initiative. We have been big supporters of that initiative and continue to develop pathways to support career and technical education. We're actually expanding career and technical education into construction this fall. This is not an area where we have supported in the past, but based on stakeholder engagement, we actually will be promoting a cohort and a job fair along with construction. We continue to work with industry leaders and really thinking about ways that we can reduce workforce barriers. Talking about those foundational elements, things like childcare, transportation, broadband access, the core things that really allow a person to be participatory in the workforce. If a parent doesn't have childcare, if a parent doesn't have transportation, these are things that will significantly reduce their ability to participate in the workforce. Thinking about goal number 2, it's been really important to us to think about how do we revitalize our communities. We've taken this effort very, very seriously and implemented the Community Resilience Committee through the Tuolumne Chamber of Commerce. So I'm on the board of directors for the Tuolumne Chamber of Commerce, and this has been a very important initiative. Our first initiative was in Jamestown and was very, very well received. We've catalyzed a lot of change there and developed a lot of momentum. The idea behind this is to catalyze the change, develop surveys, really identify what the targeted areas for economic development are within communities, and then pass that momentum on to the constituents engaged with that movement. We do have further efforts. Our next effort will be in Tuolumne City, and we'll continue to develop these throughout the region. Thinking about promoting economic equity within those disinvested and barriered communities is critically important. Equity is important for this region. This whole region is considered as a disinvested community. So really thinking about ways that we can bring those people up into working wage, family sustaining wage positions. Goal number 3, talking about industry sector partnerships. So this is critically important, and one way that the Motherlode is really pioneering and recognized on a state level when we're talking about the way we approach sector partnerships. We lightly use the next generation sector partnership model where we convene industry at the center and then bring government entities, community-based organizations, and other stakeholders kind of in the periphery to really listen to industry and develop workforce pipelines and pathways solutions, really thinking about ways that we can be industry driven. We could develop pathways in a vacuum, but really what we need to do is support the industry of Tuolumne County and the region. So really listening to what industry needs is critically important. Supporting entrepreneurship, we talked about that a little bit. That's critical to my initiative as well as other initiatives throughout the county, and really thinking about ways that we can expand our partnerships. We talked briefly about really bridging that gap between the east and west side and thinking about ways that we can collaborate. And then finally, land management practices, policies, and strategies that include resiliency and place-based initiatives. A really important part of this has been the integration of biomass. I think that biomass is a burgeoning industry here in Tuolumne County and the region, and a big part of what I've done over the past year or so has been to support that industry sector. Part of our work that I mentioned on our sustainability slide is we will actually be working to develop an entrepreneurship toolkit in the biomass industry and also hosting a similar Shark Tank style competition where we have found private funds to support business development in the biomass industry. So really thinking about ways that we can really be more participatory in bringing more business to Tuolumne County. Also thinking about ways to prioritize clean energy and climate resilience. So I think the two are very much inextricably linked. When we think about business development and biomass, we can really support our climate resiliency here in Tuolumne County by supporting the development of these biomass businesses that will reduce the fuel load in our forests. So really thinking comprehensively about the way we approach industry sector engagement. Quick overview about the things that we've been doing throughout the region, attending community and economic development forums. I attended the day at the Capitol where we actually went and educated our legislators on the workforce and economic development priorities of the region. We talked a little bit about the support of career and technical education here in Tuolumne County. This is actually a picture of our Motherlode team with our support of that initiative. Talked about the Community Resilience Committee, and then why we're here today, doing that county outreach to think about ways we can continue to educate. We want the questions, we want the suggestions. So part of that outreach and education is to come before boards such as this and continue to do that education within the region. And with that, I would entertain any questions or comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you guys for presenting this. We'll bring it back to the board for any questions or comments. Supervisor Holland?
Good work. Good presentation. Keep it up.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Supervisor Campbell?
Yeah, just real briefly, so could you go back to the slide that lays out the money for broadband infrastructure projects? So this has been a bit of an issue for me for a long time. So when I first ran for the Board of Supervisors, it was, well, really starting back in 2017. Broadband was an issue then, and there were grants available then. There was a lot of talk about how important it was for our community. So many of the same arguments that we hear now, and we see grant money continuing to come in. I have seen very few, almost no actual infrastructure projects come to fruition after all that money and all that talk. What are our chances with these now multi-million-dollar projects of them being constructed? Do we have like actual construction dates? Do we have actual companies that have experience building these things? I know this isn't, you know, your specific area, but you're in a position to know about these things. I'm in a kind of a holding pattern when it comes to broadband. I'll believe it when I see it. And so when are we going to actually see these things happen?
Absolutely. So these awards will begin implementation in about May of next year. All the money has to be expended by, I believe, either November or December of 2028. So these are projects that are actually actively finding the contractors that can support this work. So you absolutely will see this money to come to Tuolumne County and the region at large. Sierra Nevada Communications is a really important partner, both to Mother Lode Job Training and the Economic Development District, and do have prior experience in expending this grant money to provide this infrastructure. This is mainly middle mile infrastructure, so connectivity. I can speak to one recent development for CalTel, which was actually put in up at Pinecrest. So that was really connecting Pinecrest. That is not associated with this particular grant, but this is something I can speak to as a recent development. This provided reliable high-speed internet to Pinecrest. So as we all know, Pinecrest is an area where emergency services have been an issue in the past. So providing this level of service to Pinecrest is a huge boon to supporting emergency services within that area. Also, the idea is to connect that tower all the way across to Bear Valley to light up a whole nother section of our region. So I hear you on it, and this is why we have been so supportive of getting these grant awards, to local internet service providers that know what the areas are that really need that attention, as well as the Golden State Connect Authority, which will kind of do the bigger projects and then support local internet service providers who know those communities best.
Okay, thank you.
So Ryan, I can talk to you. So Golden State Connect, when I was at the meeting last week, they said they're going out to bid this fall, and they plan on having shovels in the ground by spring. Especially like, that's not so much for us, but for like Alpine and Amador, so that way they get past winter. And we went to MODOC a month ago. We must have passed 60 miles of them putting the lines in the ground out there in the middle of nowhere. So it actually is going in, just at government pace.
Okay. I haven't seen much in my district yet, so that'll be the next step.
Yeah, yes.
And I wanted to ask a question about that, because I know that, and I just did a little napkin math thing onto it, that approximately per person in Alpine County, not to pick on Alpine County, it's like $6,000. And to look at what Amador, which is substantially larger by population, but $57 million, it's about $1,600 per person. And you add up all the stuff that we kind of got there, and it's anywhere from like 180 to like $200 a person, or $250. That we're expecting to see a round two, and I know that NOFA application from FFA closed. Do we have expectation of seeing that be another? I mean, speaking of trying to get larger connections, this is one of the things. I mean, we initially were looking at a lot of sites in Columbia and Jamestown. Certainly District 2 was another major area. What got selected were kind of these narrow ones that were connecting along the highway up 108. Weren't as many people, but it had a strategic kind of thing in this from what Sierra Nevada submitted. Are we looking at some of these other submissions being funded? Do we know when that NOFA award date will be for round two? And do we have any expectation or concerns about that?
I haven't been contacted for support for any round 2 applications, although I do expect some kind of later in the year as the application expires. I believe it expires sometime later this year. So we'll see where projects land. I think capacity is an issue for a lot of our local internet service providers. So I know Sierra has these multiple projects that they'll be implementing over the next couple of
Right.
years. Volcano Communications out of Amador, I believe, is pursuing a round 2 application. But as far as it goes, I think the Golden State Connect Authority will be really, really impactful in bringing on those local internet service providers, both for the issue of capacity, but also implementation cost. When we think about actually developing this infrastructure, those millions of dollars will cover that infrastructure, but they'll have to be very cognizant of maintaining accountability and funds.
And let me say too, like, I mean, AT&T put in a proposal, it's about 20 million.
Yeah.
And they have certainly capacity. GSCA and Utopia Fiber, I mean, they've got capacity, obviously. Whoever does it, do we expect anything out of the fund round 2? I mean, has Marianne Warrendam, RCRC, or Golden State Connect provided any update? I know that Monterey, and I think Calaveras were all kind of in this bucket of waiting for an additional allocation. Amador kind of got it all at once. Obviously, you compare Amador to Tuolumne, we're getting screwed. But if we get a round 2, then that will hopefully equal it out, which is why this hasn't been a point of getting angry at anybody at the FCC or federal government or whatnot now. So is there any funding indication of how much money will be coming in?
Certainly for Calaveras County. I can't really speak to Tuolumne at this point, but I'd be happy to come back and provide the board with an update as the year elapses and we get more requests for support on those applications. And to your point, Chair Brandon, I think when you're looking at Amador County and that $57 million number, it is quite big, but it is also has a huge coverage area. A lot of the projects in Tuolumne County are much smaller service areas. So the idea for Amador County is to light up a very large portion of their underserved communities in Amador. Also thinking about connectivity, I believe Supervisor Holland mentioned Alpine County. The idea with the Calaveras Award and the Alpine Award is then to light up the entire Highway 4 corridor. So we have this huge gap between Arnold and Bear Valley. The idea is to do the work in Calaveras, do the work in Alpine, and then subsequently connect the two for connectivity.
Because originally, I think it was Highway 49 was kind of the route that it was going to follow, connecting up with Calaveras, so it's no longer a spur.
Correct.
Because it's currently, if everybody remembers, where a shovel cut the fiber and everything died for 3 days. Anyway, I wanted to ask too about the BEAD funding. Is there any update on that? I know you're getting all the LEN questions, but we don't have LEN anymore, so I'm sorry about this.
No update on BEAD funding. Unfortunately, on this particular grant activity, we are prohibited from working on BEAD. So BEAD is a separate entity where we kind of have to find time and staff time to work on it. But this particular California Advanced Services Fund does prohibit us from working on and participating in BEAD.
Okay. I'll close with just one last comment is I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I think one of the SEDS program goals for a long time is getting all the counties to work together, similar ordinances, similar projects. We had that letter proposal come forward that I drafted with CSCDD to say about, let's survey about sharing some services. Right now, economic development is something we do not have a position directly in as a county. So we're relying greatly on your work and advocacy. And I'd be very interested in seeing, it's better than having one person in a one-man department type thing. To have, I think, a team where maybe 80% of the time supporting us, 20% to the rest of whatever comes up. But as we move forward, we're looking at different restructuring efforts, shifting things around. I really want to keep that engaged of how we can better utilize CSCDD, because in the past, a lot of those plans happened and nothing happened. And I think now we have your capacity, we're actually accomplishing some of this stuff. So let's just keep that momentum going.
Thank you, Chair.
Supervisor Griefer?
No, thank you. So obviously, I got the small slice of the pie here on 120. There's 6 million so going into the Highway 108 corridor. Is the 374 just because it's already pretty well developed and
So this is for a very specific project. This is for Big Oak Flat, where they're actually going to be implementing a fixed wireless project. Fixed wireless, without delving into too many details, because of the way our region is structured, we have a very difficult challenge when we talk about line of sight with trees and rocks and things like that. So this is a very specific project targeting the Big Oak Flat community for connectivity.
Okay, I kind of suspected that was the case. And then you were talking about a round two and future. Is there a plan or so as the 120 corridor is potentially going to continue to grow and build, is there a plan to say, hey, we're looking at future funding so we can get that service all the way up into the park?
I think the idea is to light up the Highway 120 corridor. It's more difficult just because there are challenges that are presented within that corridor. There's not a lot of existing infrastructure, and then when we think about continuing that infrastructure, it's that difference between actually cabling and then the fixed wireless, which is a far more expensive solution. Unfortunately, broadband providers really have to think about the long-term sustainability when they put in infrastructure. It's based on a model of how many constituents they can serve and how they'll be paid back for that infrastructure. That also kind of furthers the relationship with the Connect Authority, is that they provide that infrastructure and the companies don't have to expend money that they have to recoup over time. So I do expect more awards along the 120 corridor in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's only the smallest slice of pie until you see the other three didn't get any pie at all. Great. If we have no further discussion or comments at the board here, open it up for, I think this is presentation and update, but we can technically do public comment whenever we want. Right now, we're going to open up public comment on this item. Again, this is our second 10 a.m. appointment. It is a presentation by the Central Sierra Economic Development District, and you'll have 3 minutes. Welcome back.
Hi. I'm so glad that you are including the youth in economic development. It's important for our high school students to have exposure to possible careers, and we need to do that through classes and internships. And I think that you can get onto the high school campuses, and do that kind of thing, support the school district in that way. And also not just in technical careers, but also all kinds of careers to keep our youth here. There are so many of the high school students that do not go on to college, that do need the vocational training to survive here in Tuolumne County if they're going to stay. And also just we've always had this land out there owned by Sonora High School, and it originally was thought that there would be a vocational campus on that property. I'd like to ignite that idea again, and maybe you can find the money to do that.
Yeah.
Or we find a coalition.
Hate to interrupt, gotta always address the board too, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Well, okay, sorry.
No worries.
You heard that, though.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have additional public comment? All right, going once, going twice, seeing none, we will close public comment on this item. And Alex, Sophia, thank you guys for coming by and presenting, really appreciate it as well. So looking at the agenda very quick, I believe we have items 14 and 15. Then we have some board request kind of type things from items 18 to 22 that should hopefully be relatively fast in a couple closed sessions. So let's move into item 14, if the clerk can read the item.
Item number 14, consideration of adopting Resolution 62-25, authorizing the interim county administrative officer to act as the Community Development Department CDD Assistant CDD Director during the vacancy, and discussion and direction regarding the recruitment of an interim/permanent CDD Director.
Great. Welcome back.
Good morning. Deborah Showman, Human Resources and Risk Management. The item before you is to address the immediate staffing needs in the Community Development Department. With the resignation of the director in July, the assistant director, and the principal plans examiner effective this week, and additional resignations of foundational staff, the nature and urgency of our recruitment efforts has changed. So to minimize further backlog of the department's workload and to provide continuity of service to the public, we recommend that your board direct staff to find a planning and development firm who can provide qualified staff to assist with the day-to-day operations and workload, and also provide a interim director who can evaluate the department and provide recommendations to your board on any changes that may need to be made regarding structure, staffing, and programs. Staff is also recommending the board adopt a resolution authorizing the CAO to act as the director and/or assistant director, and to give him authority or give the CAO authority to sign on behalf of the Community Development Department, or delegate the signature authority pending approval of an interim director. I've provided you with a revised memo. There are 2 changes that were made. Originally, we were going to recruit for the chief building official, but we are delaying that pending the outcome of today's item. And we will also need to reestablish the salary for that if we move forward with that recruitment, as it was retired when we converted the chief building official to the assistant department head. The second change was in the recommendations on the last page. We had 3 items, and we combined 2 of those that were in relation to the CAO's authority.
And Deb, there are copies on the back table.
Yes, there are
right?
copies
Thank you.
Apologies, yes, there are copies on the back for the community.
Okay, great.
Any questions?
Thank you. Bring it back to the board for any comments or questions. All right, I'll kick it off. First, and it's mentioned in the memo too, but just to clarify, we're spending to do a recruitment, but we do have fairly substantial salary savings at this point. Basically, we have a position that is allocated and yet we're not paying. So this is not a net cost to the county budget, right?
Correct. We can't budget for it without having a scope of duties.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have approximately $470,000 in salary savings between the department head and the assistant department head.
Great. 2, are you going to be looking in this for any direction? I assume that the WBCP will not be presenting the same as the CEO process of the whole shebang.
Correct.
Should we provide any input on what we would like to see regarding community development here for that process, or would we be doing that kind of, I think, after this process with presumably our new CDD director?
I think that when we have the interim firm in place, I think that's the time we'll be looking for input for the board as to what you want to see for a permanent position. And
Now,
for
are
any
they
kind
going to
of
be
research.
coming, that's what I was mentioning, are they coming to the board and presenting where we're talking about, because they're not necessarily redefining anything in the department or related to the position, they're only doing the recruitment of what competencies we might be looking for?
This is more for day-to-day, this is a planning firm.
Yeah.
So they'll come in and do the work that staff should be doing.
This isn't for the recruitment of the
This is-
interim or the recruitment of the
Am I reading
CDD.
that incorrect?
I think it might be confused with the item that we brought forth in the last meeting where we were asking for direction to use the firm use the recruiting firm to provide us an interim. Due to the changes in the staffing and due to the fact that the timing was going to take a little bit longer, our recommendation is to use the firm to find us a firm that can do that planning and building work as we need it in the coming weeks and months while we prepare for a recruitment for a director.
Right. And the recruitment firm is in the current items, I mean, basically attached for this document right here.
You gave us direction on that at that time.
Right.
But it has changed. The immediacy of the need in the department has changed with the staffing levels.
Right.
So
And
now
what I'm getting to is, if we're making the interim appointment, would we be giving any direction on that now, or would we be making the appointment and then engaging in the CDD discussions about kind of the future of where we're taking that? That's what I was trying to get to.
Well, I think it's going to be a discussion that's going to come back to the board after, because we're not really going to hire an interim right now. We're going to be using the firm to help fill that gap and help do an analysis on the department. And then we'll be coming back to the board with information from them and getting feedback from the board of what they want to see in the director position.
Right, but by default, I mean, what we're deciding right now is making you, on paper, the CDD director. So we are making a interim of a type.
That's correct.
When I say interim, that's the one I mean right now.
Talking about me.
Okay.
Perfect.
You're appointing him.
Thank you. All right, I don't have any further comments.
I have a question.
Supervisor Campbell?
So, in your recommendation, you have 3 items. Understand the first, and
If you look at the new memo, it explains, we combined 1 and 3, so it's 2 recommendations.
what I was gonna say is that I understand 1 and 3. So whether it's 2 or 1. My issues with the use of planning and development firm, you have, the budgetary impact. Let's see, is that any different on the new?
No, it is not.
Okay, so I'm not gonna even try and find it then. There it is. So this is not clear to me what the budgetary impact is. What it says is that we're gonna hire a firm for $250 to $300 an hour. For how many hours average week? I mean, that's about, if we're in the low end, that's $10,000 a week for one person on one project. But we have multiple projects. This is the kind of thing that concerns me about ballooning out of control. If we have trouble hiring for this position, I have complete faith in Roger to fulfill that role, so I don't have an issue with that. But I do have some incredible issues with hiring this work out, because what this essentially says is that the CDD director is going to be the CAO in name. We're not going to have any of that actual apparatus, and we're going to just hire out for all of that. Now, what's the guarantee that that's not going to continue like that? Because this is by far the most expensive way to possibly process this kind of work. And without having a defined period where we're going to spend that, I don't know how much it's going to be per week. I don't know how much we've budgeted for this kind of thing. Is it just going to come out of the regular CDD budget, or is it going to come out of a line item for contracting work? There's just no clarity here on the fiscal impact of this. So that's why I'm really struggling with it. Do you have some more information about that? How much is this going to cost us per week?
I think that it's important to a couple important facts that will help bring clarity. One is we haven't met with the staff and talked about what their ability is going to be with the most recent vacancies, and assessed how much we're going to need outside support from other firms like this. We already have some firms that they contract with. They already have a contract with that we can utilize. And so this firm that we're looking at here, we will be coming back to the board with more detail as to what we're going to be utilizing them for, and hopefully be able to quantify what that's going to look like with also considering that we're going to be using, we have 2 or 3 other contractors already in place that do some of this work. And I've been working with 3 other agencies to help support us in as much capacity as they can. So once we have a better picture of what we're going to use for what projects, and understanding what projects would need to go out to these firms versus what projects would be handled in-house, then we'd be able to come and provide more detail as to what the total cost would be for that. We have staff who specialize in different areas that are still here, but might have capacity in some of the areas that they haven't been working in a while. And so we're going to be spending more time working with the staff in the coming weeks to get a good grasp on what they can handle and what they can't handle. So we do not have a clear picture of whether it's going to cost us $200,000 or $400,000 to maintain the level of service that we need to maintain in that department over the coming months until we have a new director. But right now, we need to have some support to help that department.
And Supervisor, maybe related a question that might help answer it, or maybe make it more complicated, I don't know. We do have obviously a approved amount basically within it, so it can be shifted at some level if we had to use a salary savings from a vacant position to cover this cost, but to exceed that, it would have to come back for a budget amendment. So it can't exceed what we've currently cost. What the threat, I think, would be, and it's a valid one, is we would quickly expend that at a higher rate and then not have enough to continue the work. And so maybe the similar concern would be, how do we make sure that, unlike an in-house staff person, which I think is the end goal, where, you know, they have the 40 hours a week, since this could run out faster, we are at some level pacing ourselves, for lack of a better word. And I think that will probably be with this item, your challenge, to make sure that we certainly don't want this to come back and say, well, it looks like $20,000 more was run up on a bill than was budgeted. As you know, it's unacceptable, so.
Yeah, I think it is a good point that our plan right now and why there isn't really details on the budgetary impact is because we're not asking to increase the budget of this department at this time. So because we believe there will be salary savings, we already have salary savings. They have a significant vacancy in the department. That right now we're just trying to move forward with the funding that's already available in the department.
One added question to that, because there's kind of the multiple sections here. One of them's talking about working with our neighboring counties and being able to ask them to fill in. And I wonder if we have any, I mean, a retired annuitant, or are there other options besides what might be a $300 an hour firm?
Yeah, we absolutely have been reaching out to retired annuitants, reach out to all of our professional agencies, professional associations that we're all part of, looking for solutions that would be a little bit more affordable, or would be not quite as expensive as this $250,000 to $350,000. We are working on completing MOUs with several of our neighboring counties. So we're not approaching this with just one avenue. It is a very broad net, trying to find solutions that can meet the needs of the community at this time.
Great. Supervisor Griefer?
Thank you. Roger, and you and I spoke, you know, one of the things that I was interested in is kind of to Supervisor Campbell's point about, you know, mission creep and how we're going to get to where we're going here is, and maybe it's on your radar down the road, but for this amount, that's $250 to $350 an hour, would that also assist us in getting caught up on the backlog that was presented by then Mr. Bell? You stated there was like approximately 1,500 open cases. Still in the same area, or am I in the weeds?
It's in the same department, but we're going to be looking at additional options for those code compliance cases moving forward too. I would not focus with this firm and the 200 with this cost to look at our code compliance issues at this time. I would be more focused on our planning and our building initiatives.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I know I keep saying this last comment on it, but one of the big things I think that has been a very consistent point made from the public is we have engineers with stamps who got licensed contractors who are, you know, building a plan, and ones where I think even the county has history with, where we've seen projects come forward that, barring minor amendments, are not missing critical type things. You know, whether it happens later or now, but potentially now based on the capacity and cost, is there the opportunity to test out that where effectively if a building is coming forward from a licensed contractor locally, where the county has a history of this person submitting projects that are, let's say, you know, 95% compliant, a high level of compliance, that we're able to not kind of go through and review every bit of that, but the criticism has been that we go over things that are already approved by somebody who has a professional license that's accountable to their own boards and associations. Is that something that can be explored, you know, relatively quickly rather than shifting existing projects to this kind of expensive firm?
I'm going to say relatively quickly at a government pace. So stay in line with everything else. I think that is a big challenge, and I think that's one of the pieces that I think is important for this analysis is to kind of look at patterns or strategies that we can streamline the review process as much as possible. And I think that's why having such a broad net is important, because we're going to be able to get perspectives from a lot of different agencies and from other firms that are doing the same kind of work.
Okay. Okay, so with that, appreciate it. I think we're going to move to public comment on this item. If any members of the public would like to comment, again, this is item 14, consideration of resolution 6225 for the CDD director position. And welcome back.
I will speak directly to you. You should never vote on anything until you have the numbers in front of you. Yes, we're in a crisis. That's another whole issue, why we're in it. But you need to see the assessment that he has this knowledge, but he needs it on paper. And you don't vote until you see that, because you go down a rabbit hole of $250, $350 an hour, and you don't know where it ends. And we've gone through this on some other projects in the county, because information was not given to you. And you thought you could trust whoever was saying, yes, this will be fine. So I really suggest you don't move forward until you have those numbers.
Great, thank you. Do we have additional public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Now, I still have the 1, 2, and 3 items on it, so as the 2 items are merged. Personally, I think we need to have an interim director just to be able, I mean, that appointment makes a lot of sense. I don't see the urgency in terms of a week or 2 regarding the firm. If there was a slight delay, once you're appointed director of CDD, you would be able to then present on how much money is in that budget, what the expected cost of this firm would be. I think that in the comment, and my colleague too, is it's a good point. I mean, you have to be in that role, but if that came up in 2 weeks, is that really causing any substantial issue to have more? Here's the thing. If we already have that budgeted, we may not exceed that. I have full confidence we're not going to come back and be like, well, surprise, it's $20,000. I trust the confidence in that. But that is also funding that we could use in fund balance for any of the other issues that we're working on. So that's where I worry about if we're expending all of that. Say our salary savings over that period of time is $200,000. Maybe it takes 6 months, it's a few vacant positions. Well, $200,000 could be a road project, when maybe we had an opportunity, we could have done this a little later, so. Roger, if you want to tag in, I mean, could we do that as an option to make that first decision for the appointment and then bring the contractor firm thing as a second one
Well,
later?
absolutely. You guys, it's at the board's discretion that if you want to me to bring it back. I will tell you that one of the things, especially Chair, that you brought up to me is concerns with delaying projects.
Right.
Every time I have to bring something back, it's going to delay projects. I guarantee it. And these projects are economic drivers for the community, which I've heard the board talk about how important that is. So we're not just talking about a 2-week delay. We're talking about a 3-week delay, because our next meeting is not until the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you that there's projects in the queue right now that will stop until we get somebody that can assist us. So if the board is okay with stopping some of these bigger projects that are in play right now, some of them that are in the planning phase, some of them that need to go to the planning commission, if you're okay delaying that, then that's your prerogative. It's not my recommendation that we delay any further than what we have already.
And maybe a follow-up to that is there, what's the fee recovery look like when a project is utilizing this firm? Is the county and local taxpayers, eating that cost, or is it the project proponent, whether they're local or not, that would end up basically paying for what they use?
There's a lot of those questions that still need to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to have the time to work with somebody who has a better grasp of how this would work using the firm. We don't have a contract with the firm today. The estimate on the dollar amount is based on just reaching out and trying to find out how much an hourly cost would be. I anticipate there might be some projects that will be willing to pay an additional amount to have it go to outside and have their plan checks in their building handled outside. But I also anticipate there's a lot of builders and contractors who are smaller or building, single-family homes that are probably going to want to stay within our cost recovery in the county.
Right. Chair,
Okay.
why don't we let them use the firm, but why don't we just get on with hiring a director in the next 60 days, and then to Ryan's point, we know we have a cap because the director would be in place in 6 or 8 weeks from now. So we'd have somebody there and in place, this is just a stopgap to keep things rolling for the next month or two. Have Deb go out, instead of trying to find an interim, just find an actual replacement. And skip the whole interim part for right now, use this as a crutch and just get on with hiring. And then that way it's done in a couple months.
Supervisor Griefer.
To Mike's point, I think we need to get him the authority to do what we need to do first, and then we can come cross bridge number 2 second. Because right now we don't have anyone who's got the authority to do anything, right? So this right here, item number 2, off of the handout that was presented earlier, just says that we're going to give him the authority to go forward and conquer, and then once we're in that, then we can get the data back. He can figure out what the lay of the land is. That would tell us a little bit later down how much we potentially maybe have to pay an outside this firm. So my only question here, which is more of a procedural issue, is it says adopt a resolution. Does this mean that in 3 weeks we're going to have a resolution come before us that says we need this, or this is it? All right, good. So with that being said, I'm ready to make a motion.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because Mike, your point, Supervisor Holland, is persuasive. When we had the public defender vacancies, we did have to hire an emergency amount, but the goal was rehiring. And this recruitment process, keeping in mind that this will probably be about 2 months, is relatively low stakes in that term. So anyway, that's persuasive to me. So would that be the motion? Move on. Staff recommendation.
Yeah, my actual motion would be going off like I said, the paperwork that was provided to us is actually backwards. Would be adopt a resolution authorizing the CAO to act as community development director, and so on and so on. And then the second item would be authorize the use of the planning and development firm to respond to the CDD's immediate needs and provide an interim CDD directions, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So that's where I have an issue. I agree with the first one. I don't see that we really have any choice. There are far many other things I'd rather see Roger work on than this, but we really don't have any choice. We're kind of forced into this position. But there's no way I'm supporting hiring a development firm for an indefinite amount of time, for an indefinite amount of money, when it's not clear exactly how projects are going to be assigned to them, how they're going to be prioritized. I think this is, so saying that if we don't do this, projects are going to be delayed. Projects are already going to be delayed. This, partially because of decisions made on this board, we've decimated the functionality of CDD. Okay, that is what is going to cause the delays. And then saying that our only option is to hire a firm for $350 an hour, $250 to $300 an hour, that is not a viable option to me. So without having any clue about how much this is going to cost, how can we possibly approve this?
I think it's important that you guys are giving me direction to find this firm and bring a contract back to the board. If you don't like the contract, that's the time for you, instead of going out and getting an interim director, I'm going to look for a firm that can provide all the services. And if you don't like that contract, that'll be an opportunity for you to not approve that contract. I do agree with some of the statements about the recruitment. We can start a recruitment, but the direction from this board is that you want it to consider options with the department. And that could change what you're looking for as a director. So if there's any reorganization or any restructuring within this department that you want to have done, I would recommend doing that before you hire a director, for a permanent director, because you may not get the skill sets you want in a permanent director if you're going to reorg the department. However, we are willing to start a recruitment right now. I will leave here today and start a recruitment tomorrow if the board directs me to do that. I'd be glad to have a director in place as soon as possible. So we will be coming back to the board, and yes, there have been delays, and yes, there will continue to be delays, but we need to have some mechanism to try to keep some projects moving forward as they're coming in.
Well, The first thing you said, though, is why are we not talking about that as an option? That instead of hiring out these firms, or one firm in particular, why aren't we putting that extra money and effort into hiring either replacement staff for those who have left, an interim director? To me, those are more permanent solutions. Even an interim director is a more permanent solution than hiring an outside contractor to do this work.
Yeah,
So
I think a lot of it came to timing, because the interim director was not going to be here within the 4 to 6 weeks that we thought we would be able to get one.
Well, because we're talking about spending salary savings, what that means is people have left, and so we're not paying them anymore. But the people who have left, we will be paying the firm to replace them more than those people were paid. So that is not a permanent solution. And so the concern I have is that by the time we get if we're doing both, by the time we get these positions hired, we will be in a less stable financial position with CDD, and there won't be the money to hire these people, and we'll have to add more into that department. So what I'm saying is, why don't we put the extra money and energy into hiring these positions rather than go with an outside firm?
Well, if that's the board's direction, we'll do that. We have already opened several of the positions. I believe in the memo it states we opened the principal plan checker, the building inspector. We need to come back to the board for the chief building officer. But these recruitments are going to take 4 to 6 weeks at a very minimum. And there's nothing we can do about the fact that staff has left. All we can do is try to make sure we have a mechanism in place to allow us to continue working and to continue providing that service to the community. And that's what we're trying to do with this contract.
We did have a motion. We didn't really give time for a second. I wanted to offer maybe something that might be a compromise, which would be a not to exceed time period on this. We are talking about a limited period, and concern noted too about an indefinite period of time. Would it change if we basically specified that this would be a not to exceed, let's say 3 months, which would be covering a recruitment and if something else comes up that's a problem, right? 3 months is a emergency measure kind of period. Would that be something we would hire? You would be hired as a interim CDD director to make decisions. We would be able to have a firm that could do a 3-month max, and then we'll just bring it back if we had to reauthorize it. And then the last bit is when we made that discussion about the structuring of CDD, we then had another senior staff member leave, which has changed that a bit. I would be comfortable adding, if you'd be fine, to that recommendation to say we should begin that executive recruitment process. You make a really good point that we're spending a lot per hour out of salary savings instead of spending a lot of that on actually recruiting the person who will do the work. So would that be considered a friendly amendment? We do the interim appointment, we do a firm with a 3-month not to exceed, has to be reauthorized, and we initiate the recruitment as laid out in here with WPCP out of salary savings.
Well, wait a second. I'm totally confused because we already agreed to pay WBCP to find someone to fill in this position, right?
As an
No.
Right. Yes. It says utilizing. I thought last week or last interim CDD director. The issue before us is that they can't wait 4 to 6 weeks to get to that point. So that's why we're taking this step now to appoint him to do this job now. It doesn't sound, if I'm picking up what you're putting down here, Supervisor Campbell, is that your issue is with the blank check, right? So why don't we cross the first bridge first and say, hey, let's appoint the guy, right?
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any issue with that.
All right, so let's split the baby here. So I will amend my motion to item number 2 on the presentation that was handed out. Adopt a resolution authorizing the CAO to act as the CDD, temporary CDD director.
And just that.
For now.
Okay,
yes.
second.
Okay. So we're basically splitting the question. We may do 2 votes. Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, because I don't think we're going to get the first part done until we address the second part.
And I was just about to make the recommendation, so good. Great minds.
So if we're clear, we'll vote on that, but the item's not over, we'll bring back for the kind of second part of that. And I appreciate that approach. So with that, we'll call for a vote on the motion Let's see, we had, what was it, first by Supervisor Griefer, second by Supervisor Campbell. This is related to the appointment of Roger, interim CAO, as the CTD director. All good? No legal counsel yellow flags? Good, okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining. All right, it's unanimous. So now we're to the second part?
Yeah, so I guess the second part is to authorize now the acting CDD director and CAO to work with this firm as he feels necessary to kind of help us find out where we are. And the problem is we can't make it just as clear cut, because you're right, Supervisor Campbell, there's not a certain dollar amount, but if we combine the two, then it would fall under his purview anyway. He's going to say, hey, look, it's going to cost us approximately X thousands of dollars, bring that before the board, then we could decide whether or not. So now I think we've kind of put ourselves in a box.
That's a much better option, though. I mean, if there's a project that needs a certain amount of outside help to get it across the line, that should be something coming back to the board. What I'm concerned is we're going to continue this on for every project, and in the interest of avoiding any delays at all, and it's going to balloon the cost to CDD.
Well,
yes.
One of the things I
Because
mentioned
like
was
your
the
term,
3
blank
month.
check. That's what this is. It's a blank check.
A 3 month not to exceed. That this is an emergency measure, and then we could talk about whether we would engage then in a recruitment process. At least as I'm reading the memo and in my own memory on it, is we did direct to go find a firm, and we wanted to do it. I don't know that we actually, and maybe council, and Roger, can you weigh in, did we actually, just as we had for the CAO presentation today, authorize money to be spent on an executive search for CDD? We didn't, correct?
You did authorize that 12,000 for the executive search for the interim.
Okay.
And I do not believe the recommendation is to continue moving forward with that because of the timing. The recommendation is to, instead of finding an interim, to use the firm to help us with the areas that we need help today and to help with the analysis. And I do support if you want to move forward with a recruitment, but it is important to understand that if you are looking at making organizational changes within this department, that you may want to do that before you do the recruitment. But I will support either one, either direction. But we do need the additional support from a firm.
So maybe, because I threw in the extra thing for the recruitment simultaneously with it. My only recommendation on that maybe would be, and I don't know if it alleviates it, but it seems like a good idea, that after 3 months, this would come back to be reauthorized. It is not an in perpetuity. We're not going to take an emergency measure and then it's going to be the next year of funding. Does that change?
Hold on, I have a question. So the community development director, which you now are, has the ability
Congrats.
to approve outside contractors to perform some work within CDD without coming to the board. What is the threshold for that?
Maybe CO signing authority.
What's the signing authority for that?
72,000.
Okay, so why don't we not proceed with this, allow you to use your signing authority to hire contractors up to that level, and if you need more, you come back to the board? It's okay?
Yeah, so,
All right.
I think we should still move forward with getting somebody hired.
Well, again, I
Start that process.
think we've got multiple ships in the water here, and I think they're getting bottlenecked here. So we
Full of
approved.
half babies.
Yeah, I was told not to use that anymore. So we still have approved up to $12,000 to find an interim, right? So we're not doing anything. If we don't want to move forward on that, we can tell them, hey, stop. That way we're not writing that check, right? So between now and whenever, we can have him, Roger say, hey, this is here's some options, and we can go forward. So like I said, I think we just need to, but clear the water a little.
For me, it is between, the fifth meeting or whenever we did that, directing the recruitment. The thought was, well, we may do some restructuring, then we talked about, well, who's the director in that. With the director and assistant director gone, I do think it's sufficiently changed in my mind to change my opinion, that it is more important we find a recruitment for it that is in that general sphere. I don't think we're going to do anything so radical that it is completely, I think we will, like I've mentioned, I'd love to see it do economic development stuff. I think that's great. That should be in the sphere of a capable administrator. I don't think it's going to be radically different, so. Is that what you're mentioning as we move forward with the recruitment and kind of authorize that before we would go through a restructuring effort?
So I think Ryan's point clears it one up about the money, right? Roger has authority to keep the ball rolling. We know there's a cap, that limit. I think if we move forward looking for someone, the sooner that happens, the sooner we hire somebody, the sooner that we won't hit that cap, hopefully, or less. Because in the, to Jaron's point, at the end of the day, we're gonna need somebody no matter what, right? No matter if you even did a slight shuffle, the community development has to be more familiar with SQL and everything else more than anything else.
So rather than the time limitation or the kind of indeterminate contract, we just say you can do that up to the 72,000.
We gave him that, but I think we should.
That sounds fine.
Yeah, I think we should move forward trying to find somebody.
Right.
Have Debbie start putting out the Craigslist ad or whatever we're talking about.
And so the recruitment would be kind of the last, because we had direction to potentially go higher, and then we talked about, well, maybe we want to restructure. So the discussion is, do we want to give direction today on proceeding on the hiring recruitment process, correct? Is that what you'd be looking for kind of clarity on, Roger?
Yes, that is correct. Clarity on the recruitment would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're there, right? Because I think we have broad agreement on the recruitment. If you're okay with letting the new CDD director use his authority to hire contractors, then we're done.
And board members, just from a process piece, so there is no confusion later, is if any one firm goes over the 72,000 signing authority, the board will see that contract. So I just don't want there to be any confusion that it's possible contracts may come back for your approval, likely on consent. If it were to exceed that, because the current firms the county has, I don't know where they're at in terms of the dollar threshold. So just an FYI.
Well, okay, I don't want to belabor the conversation anymore, but do you anticipate that happening? That there would be one contract more than $72,000?
Current firm, and there's already been a certain amount of work done in the year. It's early in the fiscal year, so likely not, but
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure you
Okay,
knew,
I
so no
understand.
one's surprised if there are contracts that come back.
Okay.
But it's at least eyes open there. Okay, do you have the direction that you need on this? We did one vote for the interim. I don't know if the others require a vote, or you just needed kind of our consensus. It sounds like there is consensus to move forward with the recruitment process for a CDD director.
Yep. I think I get consensus that we're moving forward with the recruitment.
Good. All right, thank you.
And I would strongly encourage this board to set a date and time to decide to have that discussion if there is going to be restructuring, because that will impact our decisions down the road, or potential candidates and their decisions down the road.
As we're sailing the ship as we're flying it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oars in the water.
I, to an extent, agree. I mean, while we're doing a recruitment process, I don't think that prohibits, Roger and I, we talked about this too, bringing an item to the board, if not a formal plan of restructuring, of kind of getting our input into what we are looking to see with that and what staff's recommendation is to how that functions, and getting some feedback. Is that what you're mentioning, is having an item where we, I mean, while we're doing a recruitment, talk about what we think should structurally happen? And that is obviously not a closed session personnel issue, but a structural issue.
No, my concern is that we're going to say, hey, we're looking for this individual, and then the board is going to say, we want our structure and restructure and come up with this whole thing, and then that individual says, well, I don't want to be a part of that. Or someone who might be interested in what we're proposing down the road doesn't apply because they don't realize that's something that we're proposing down the road.
So our next meeting is in 3 weeks. We could place an item on the agenda, which would be a discussion or direction. It doesn't have to be, again, a formal plan that we're giving you a thumbs up or down, but providing what we would like to see with that department. Would that be?
Yeah, I just think we need to do
at
something.
the next opportunity?
Yeah, we just need to do something because we're trying to recruit for something that might change.
I don't think it's going to.
I'm not saying it is. I'm
You
just
gotta
saying.
have somebody that has planning knowledge, and it's about building. Those two cores are always gonna be together. Some of the peripheral, maybe, but why don't you put that person in place and give them a little bit of time, and then we have that conversation? Because it might completely change our thought process or whatnot, and let them get that established. But I think finding the person that's gonna be the CD director, that core knowledge is not gonna change.
The only concern I could see in that is seniority. If we hire a position that is a multi-agency department head level, and any restructuring would change that, merge it into something else or divide it into a few or whatever that would be, that would be the only concern, because the skills would be the same. I believe that totally within the umbrella. But if we're hiring somebody to manage a team of 20, and it ends up in the building planning being a smaller team of that separate, that is my only worry. I would support the idea of in 3 weeks, we bring back this item, and we should just have a presentation discussion. We now have a new CDD director, so mission accomplished, and could bring back maybe just some key points that you've probably heard from meetings with us and the public and staff, and are like, these are some of the ideas out there, and we'll have a little better idea. What do we think? 3 weeks, discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think,
hiring.
I actually think,
Both. Yeah.
well, I kind of agree with what Supervisor Holland said, that if we, I get both sides. If we do choose to restructure, which, I mean, it's already been restructured, let's concede that without, it is restructured now. Putting it back into a position that functions better for the community, I think, is our task now. And I can kind of see Mike's point about wanting to have that person in the position to involve them in the conversation about it. So I think we're going to have to do that before we can really have a good conversation about how to restructure a department like that. Because I'm not a builder, I'm not a plans checker, I don't know how those things should work. I'm going to rely heavily on people that are smarter and more experienced than me in that conversation. What I would want to avoid is us out of whole cloth redeveloping this department on the dais without having the knowledge we need going forward.
I've been persuaded now to, let's do the recruitment first. If that's fine. Okay. I think we got the consensus on that mostly, pretty much. Great. Okay, well, I appreciate that. We have got everything done for item 14. Do we expect item 15 to take, we've got like 8 minutes before lunch for everybody. Let's see. I feel like, I don't know, I'm looking to the board for direction on this. I feel like item 15 has the potential to be very quick or very not quick. And it probably not in the middle.
We could Rochambeau it. Yeah.
So what do we think?
Let's see, go for it.
Let's start it out, we'll see how it goes, and if we need to.
I don't know, I'm looking at the guy who's got the fund balance.
We'll wait after lunch.
Questions
If the
over
clerk
there,
can read item 15.
Item number 15, consideration of providing direction to staff on the use of fund balance to balance the general fund for the fiscal year 25-26 adopted budget.
Okay.
All right. Good
Hello?
morning, board.
And go.
Okay, so last time your board met on August 5th, you made some changes to your budget policies. One of those changes was to remove the provision that had been in there before about the ability to utilize 50% of the 10-year rolling average of fund balance. I'm talking general fund specifically. To balance the following year's operations. And it wasn't so much, from what I understand, I watched the meeting back, of course I wasn't here, but from what I understand, it wasn't so much that you weren't absolutely gonna not do it, it was more about giving your board the discretion, which of course you have. So this year in the recommended budget, in the 25-26 budget, we are estimating fund balance, of course, just remember, fund balance right now is all a big estimate until the fiscal year closes, which the auditor's office, I know, is actively working on. So our estimated general fund balance this fiscal year is just about $5.7 million. And so how that's being utilized this year in the recommended budget is $1 million refunds contingencies, and that's according to your board's budget plan. It's always about $1 million. It's 1% of the operating budget in the general fund. Your board also wanted to move forward with purchasing a chip seal machine, and so that was $500,000. We have the Yaney Courthouse elevator payment where we need to pay ourselves back, and so that's $518,000. And then we also took $500,000 of that fund balance and put it toward capital. It's really kind of large deferred maintenance projects this year. Not any significant capital projects this year. That leaves just about $1.2 million that is funding operations for next fiscal year. And then the remainder, your board had discussed perhaps purchasing some things, and then the direction was to wait until September. And so the remainder of fund balance is just about $2 million, and that was also added to contingencies. So based on the discussion and the direction that your board gave on August 5th, we're here looking for direction from your board about what do you want to do for the adopted budget. Right now, you have $1.2 million of fund balance that is funding next year's operations. And then there's just about $1 million between the capital projects and then the Yaney Courthouse elevator. So that could be considered a part of that operations piece. Now, it also could be considered one-time or temporary type expenditures. So that's obviously up to your board's interpretation. But so we're looking at anywhere from $1.2 to $2.2 million of fund balance that's being used for next year. And so really what we're looking for is direction from your board about, do you want to do that for the adopted budget as it was set for the recommended, or do you want to direct us to work with the budget team in the next, between now and September 23rd, to make reductions so that we're no longer using fund balance at all or to some degree, again, looking for direction from your board about if you want us to work with departments to make cuts for the preparation of the adopted budget. Of course, we're bringing that to your board on September 23rd. So depending on what your board directs today, we would need to get going immediately. A couple other things I want to note is that it is, for what it's worth, it is staff's recommendation, and Roger and I have discussed this pretty extensively. It is our recommendation that we have this current fiscal year, 25-26, to implement the budget policy that your board made the change to on August 5th. Because there's a lot of moving parts. It's not to say that we couldn't get there where we're not using fund balance for operations, but there's a lot that needs to be put in place, and some of the direction that your board gave previously about moving out of rented spaces, that's a great example of where that is something we could do to reduce the budget further, but as you know, that's going to take some time. So there's a handful of other things that we could be and will be doing. And so just for what it's worth, that's staff's recommendation. And then the other piece that we wanted to make sure you were aware of is that this is a pretty common practice for rural counties to utilize some portion of fund balance for ongoing operations for the next year. I actually put kind of a thing out to the other county budget coordinators, and have actually this morning gotten a fair amount of feedback from other counties that that to some degree are utilizing fund balance to balance their budgets for next year. So there you go. There's the information. Just looking for some direction from your board about what you need from us to bring back to you on the 23rd for the adopted budget.
Okay, great. Thank you. It seems like the main direction on that is we've already given direction on the budget policy related to fund balance, but is whether for this year or not, we're allowing kind of a one-year transition period, or whether we would like to immediately adopt that. So bring it back to the board, maybe if we're able to focus on that for direction. Fund balance guy?
All right, I guess it's me. I know I'm the one that talks about this the most. I still look at things that this is a structural ongoing deficit, and we need to fix that problem. If it's 1.2, 2.7, whatever, I still don't think we're living fully within our means to get that done. And yeah, it looks like we'll have $2 million left over, but there's a bunch of stuff we're not accounting for in there that is going to pop up in the next couple months, and that number will say 0 by the time we're done. Roger will be back to ask us for money so we can make the different departments to move, which will not be free, cost money. We have negotiations going on that could cost something, which isn't factored in there. So again, we'll be rolling in with the gas tank's on empty. So I just don't think it's a good plan. Long-term plan, I understand other counties do it. Other counties also allow, full drug use too. And, it doesn't mean that we should do that. I just think looking at it, when you have to do it, I understand that, but it seems like it's been an ongoing thing throughout. If you look at the past 6 years, there's $15 million I got kept using in the operations, which maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's bad, but to me, I look at it as that's got to be a structural issue because we're always budgeting more than we actually bring in, and we're counting on vacancies to make it work. And if we didn't have any vacancies and it comes to cost savings, then what would we do? that bill's coming due, and unfortunately, it's here now. So that's my point in it. And I know I probably don't have the votes to support that, but I will die on the hill.
Well, I agree with, and I voted against when that fund balance item first came back. I've never really agreed with that proposal. I do understand the rationale for it. I tend to think, like you said, it should be case-by-case basis, but the process should be, it is not expected. I do agree that this is a one-year transition. We're getting to where we want to go. I'm fine with a $5.7 million fund balance. We are looking at 1.2 million, which is carrying over that as a transition period with that expectation set that we're going to basically not do that in the future. I am worried that if we don't put that there, given the amount of work that there is and some of the staffing issues and the timeline presented by Liz, that is going to be unrealistic to meet and would be a major challenge. So personally, I agree with the policy change. I think we should do 1 year. I'll add one other thing is we've got 2 million in here going to contingencies. And I mentioned this the last time that I think we have to be very disciplined about what we're putting this stuff to. I talked to Supervisor Campbell about this previously, and we talked at the meeting as well. I think a shared interest in seeing, like as an example, the chip seal machine, being able to eventually get that. But of course, if there's no money in the road fund, and we have a budget, a policy of setting 1 road per year maintained, we're buying equipment, but we're still not funding the very basic kind of slurry seal. Even that's a challenge. There's also 500 in here. It says capital and large maintenance projects. I mean, the Yaney Courthouse is a payment back to ourselves. It is mandatory, right? Barring we get another entity to come in there and pay rent or whatnot. But the capital and large maintenance, I don't know exactly what that is planning to go to. What I'm looking at is $1.98 million that's going to contingencies, which I would rather put to something either split between roads and unfunded PERS liabilities. There's also the $500,000, the chip seal machine, and even the capital and large maintenance projects, unless there is something that is pressing and maybe detailed, that is another $500,000, which means that could be $3 million to roads and unfunded pension liabilities. If we put all of that to unfunded pension liabilities, correct me if I'm wrong, the savings over time is about $210,000 a year, right? It's like 7% somehow, and our unfunded minimum payments keep going up.
Yeah,
Like if we put $3 million
bucks
into unfunded, do we have an idea of what that would generate in saved interest? I thought it was about 7.5%.
Perhaps, yeah. I don't know for sure. We can definitely do the math.
Just launch that on you, so no, you're.
But in
you're all
short,
right.
yes, we would save into the future. I just want to mention a couple things. You might recall when we brought up the things, or when your board brought up the things that you wanted to potentially spend fund balance on, the direction was to bring it back in September, which we will do. And your board will have an updated an opportunity to revisit what to do with the money that was put in contingencies. Because remember, the direction at the time was this is estimated fund balance. So we had some concerns about maybe where TOT would come in light of the international travelers and some of those things. And so that's why we just parked it all. So I hear what you're saying, Supervisor Brandon, and I think the recommendation from staff still stands that we not make any changes to how we're utilizing fund balance until we bring it back. I think we're looking at September, well, depending on what your board decides, but 15th, 16th, something like that is when we would revisit that conversation. And then I do want to highlight too that we refunded contingencies at the $1 million, and that's just always according to your policy. And then we added the additional 1.9 million because that's what's left over. So in contingencies, in general fund contingencies, it's actually just about $3 million that's in there right now, just so that the math is mathing. And then lastly, on the capital projects, we have a list of what those capital projects are that was brought to your board and approved as a part of the recommended budget. We will refine those as well because there's always kind of some ups and downs, just a little bit of refining. And so we will bring that back to your board as a part of the adopted budget process to bring clarity, because for sure, if you're not recalling what those are, we want to make sure that you recall and still approve those.
Now, in the same way, though, if we gave direction today that we wanted to put it to roads and unfunded pension liabilities, it would still come back to us, and it would still have to be approved then, just the same as we're talking right now.
Sure.
Right. So it followed the exact same process. It's just a matter of whether, and this is one thing I got to when we were talking fund balance before, is we get $2 million, it ends up always being a shooting gallery because we're all advocating hard for our districts. I've got things that I really want. We kind of did it, then we kind of went back on it. That is the higher level decision is like, well, we can put it to the really important stuff, but that means that we won't have money left over for individual district projects. So, anyway, 2 cents of what's on my mind about this. Supervisor Campbell?
Well, I thought we were talking about fund balance, and so, this sounds a little bit like we've always done it this way, and so we should continue to do it that way, but if we're looking at making large structural changes to our budget, when we've already been traveling down this path of using fund balance, we're in a position where we have to find $2.2 million, if that's the what we want to do. And I'm not in a place where I want to find $2.2 million to cut from the budget. We do have enough fund balance to cover that. That would be the direction I'd want to go. If we want to find ways to do that differently in the future, I'm open to that conversation, but unless we're ready to cut $2.2 million today or very soon before September, this is the only option available to us.
Supervisor
What's
Holland?
the 2.2? That was 1.2.
It's the courthouse and the maintenance projects too. So it's 1.2 million for operations. The other ones would otherwise be expected payments we would do. It's kind of a.
Yeah, we don't have a choice on the courthouse.
I mean, they're one-time but recurring expenses.
Yeah,
like
we have to pay the courthouse, the elevator back.
The second to last paragraph of the memo, that staff would need to work with budget team to reduce up to an additional 2.26174 between now and September 23rd, when the board would be adopting the budget.
I look at it as just the 1.2 because I think the repayment, it is going to be what it is. I mean, we can't reduce the payment because we have to make it. But it's just the structural operational cost of it. I mean, we've got an elevator over there,
But by the same logic, I would say, because we've already eliminated the fund balance policy in budgeting. This is really making that one-time decision. By the same logic that the courthouse and even the capital large maintenance project is kind of one-time stuff, the operations it still ends up, if it's the last time, only being a one-time investment. So the key question here is, I don't think we're talking about the 2.2. It sounds like we have consensus on what would be the Yaney project and the capital and large maintenance project for now, right? What's a matter of whether we are using fund balance for it or directing staff to pay for the Yaney elevator through another.
I'm not clear on what we're talking about now.
No, I thought the Yaney payment was already scheduled to come out of that fund balance.
It
So
is.
that's already scheduled to come out, so.
But
the question at hand was just simply give direction
Yeah.
if to continue using fund balance the fund next year.
Right.
That's the only question that's on the table. Or it's
Right.
that's not even a vote, it's just a conversation, right?
Right.
Direction. So that's really all we're talking about.
Right. So I think we should, as laid out, and it sounds like you're in the same boat, the 2.2 million use one time now that we've changed the policy. And it sounds like we were expecting sorry for this being confusing, the two other approximately $500,000 items were already fine. So anyway, you, Supervisor Holland, were saying you don't want to use fund balance for any operations for next year, which would be the 2.2 million?
So I'm ready to make a motion if, I don't know if we've done public comment yet, but.
No, we haven't done public comment.
Okay.
I'm confused whether what you're saying is the 1.2 or the 2.2. Right.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
The 1.2.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's do public comment on this and then we can move to a motion. Because that's what I thought you were saying. He's saying 2.2. Anyway, we're going to open up public comment on this item. This is for item 15 regarding use of fund balance in the general fund. Any members of the public would like to make a comment, please come forward. All right, seeing none, we're going to close public comment and bring it back to the board for discussion or a motion. Supervisor Campbell mentioned he would be ready to make a motion. Did you have a comment?
No, my only, well, yes, I do have a comment, thank you. My only comment would be that I would still strongly encourage staff and the finance committee to find that cut, right? They may never get to it, but still have it out there. That's something that Supervisor Campbell mentioned. We should, just because we have this here now, doesn't mean we should not ask them to continue to find that golden egg out there.
Yeah, I agree. And the worst case scenario is that they would come back in another couple of weeks and tell us we don't need as much, that it would, the amount of fund balance they would need to balance the budget would be less, if they do that. So.
Okay, so we'll be looking for a motion.
Well, I just read the recommendation. Do you need a motion, or do you need consensus direction?
Yeah, I think just direction on, do you want us to make any further cuts to try to relieve that 1.2 million for the adopted budget specifically? Really, it's just looking about timing.
Right.
I'd say no, but then going to Supervisor Griefer's comment that if you are able to find those cuts, to bring those back to the board.
I'm gonna be outvoted, doesn't matter. It's not a vote though.
All right, you've got mostly direction on the staff recommendation. Liz Roger, do you have what you need? Okay. All right, appreciate everybody. With that, we're going to call for lunch. Let's return back we do have a 1 p.m. Closed session. Are we okay? Yeah, are we okay to convene back at 1 p.m. even though it'll be shorter than an hour? Okay, let's convene back at 1 p.m. since we have an appointment. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Everybody being our one member of the public right now. Thank you for hanging in with us. Hate to do it to you. We're going to be going into our 1 p.m. closed session, if the clerk can read the item. So, what? We can, but we do have our 1 p.m. Person who is waiting. That's the reason to move into it.
The one thing that we could do, just to make it a little easier, is read the closed session item for the interviews and the closed session item for the litigation, so we can take care of that. It'll be fairly quick.
Okay, and so item 16, Clerk told me, has been pulled, correct? So we could take our 1 p.m. and our item 17 together, and then we will be back to consider 18 through 22. All right, so the clerk can read item 17 and our 1 p.m. appointment.
Item number 17, closed session, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Authority Government Code, Section 54956.9D1, Michael Elin, et al. Versus Tuolumne County Superior Court, case number CV 66111. 1 p.m. closed session, public employee appointment, Authority Government Code, Section 54957B1, Agricultural Commissioner / Sealer of Weights and Measures / Air Pollution Control Officer.
Okay, great. We'll take public comment on item 17 and our 1 p.m. appointment, if any members of the public would like to speak. Public? No pressure. All right, opened and closed for public comment on those two items. So we'll adjourn to closed session. We're going to be meeting in the law library. Do we expect to report out on the closed session items? No, we don't. We will be reconvening afterwards again for our items 18 through 22. Okay, we're reconvening the Board of Supervisors meeting. It is 3:36 p.m. We have no report out from our closed session. We do have a few items. Since some of these, I know we were going to have a Cry Wolf presentation, item 19. This is a request to basically put that on the agenda. For 18, I'm just going to pull that discussion, which is my item. 18. So pull 18. We'll go through 19. It is just a request to agendize Cry Wolf. That's all it is. Not for, yeah. and then be able to talk about the rest. Is that fine? Are we fine with going through 19 through 22 still?
Well, I was gonna suggest that we take them as a block. So if you're saying that so table or pull item 18 off the agenda, I understand that. Could we take 19, 20, and 21, just read them all and go through them now, since they're all requests? I could go either way because they're different subject material, but they're all similar. They're all board requests. And so.
I think 19 and 20 could easily be taken together.
Okay.
So we're pulling number 18? Okay.
All right. So shall we quickly read items 19 and 20?
Sure. My only recommendation, if you're going to be combining items, is that you allow for 3 minutes public comment for each item. So, if someone wanted to come talk for 9 minutes.
Will we have time for that?
No, I don't think that's right. I thought that if we, for example, closed session.
Yeah.
When you come, you're taking I'm not close. Consent calendar. You take that all as a block, and people can comment on consent as a group, but they don't get to comment 3 minutes on each item.
Maybe something we can discuss after, because I was joking. I don't think it'll be an issue today.
You're right.
We might be okay.
I realized what I was doing, that I was arguing over something that's kind of a.
If the clerk can read items 19 and 20, please.
Item number 19, consideration of approving a request for the Tuolumne County Fire and Sheriff Offices to provide a presentation on the Cry Wolf false alarm fee program. Brandon. Item number 20, consideration of approving sending a letter to the Central Sierra Economic Development District, CSEDD, requesting expansion of the opportunity zones in Tuolumne County. Brandon.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, 20 is a continuation. I don't know if you had any feedback from some of our associations, but it was going to be the same request. And then 19 is partly at the request of Law Enforcement and Fire to kind of review this since we've implemented it, partly based on some folks reaching out to me. So I'd ask that we would agendize this. It'd be going through that system, explaining how it works and whether it's been effective in reducing false alarms, how much in terms of fees, any problems the system's had. We haven't, since we implemented that, had a presentation. I think, was it 3 years ago, or when we expanded it 5 years ago? Oh my, it's been 5 years. That's right. Well, also, you didn't tell us that you're becoming a firefighter. I said you didn't tell us that you're becoming a firefighter.
There's actually a story behind this that I won't bore you with now, but Dave Vasquez, Sheriff of Tuolumne County.
Welcome. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. I believe the initial contract was 2020, where we implemented Cry Wolf, and the intent on that was to try and recoup some of the people's services for deputy sheriffs responding to false alarms. And around that time, I think we were logging anywhere from 1,238 total alarms, and we were identified that 1,080 of those were false alarms. We were at that time taking on that labor internally with the help of a fiscal tech, maybe a clerk, and then also forwarding that information to Revenue and Recovery. And we had asked the question of how much are we missing? And I think through the data that we have right now, we've determined that at one point when we were doing it in-house in conjunction with Revenue and Recovery, we were recovering somewhere between the neighborhood of $10,000 annually for all these false alarms, but not really accounting for all of them. Cry Wolf is a software that talks directly to our CAD system, and Cry Wolf processes that information and takes care of the billing, the late fees, and also sending individuals to collections, which we were able to see the difference in between this. So between 2020 is when we initiated our contract, and that was specifically identified in the ordinance for burglary and robbery false alarms. And it should be also noted that the individuals are given, I believe, a total of 3 chances. So the first false alarm, you're not billed. Second, you're not billed. The third one, you're billed on. And I think a lot of the time that went into it originally was people having to research, is it 1, is it 2, is it 3, do we bill, are they paying? The follow-up was a huge burden associated with how we bill. A few years after that, I believe that there was a discussion, and I don't want to speak for fire. I don't know if they're still here. They were here earlier, but there was a thought that maybe that same principle could apply to fire. I believe the board amended the ordinance maybe 20, 23, 24-ish time frame.
That's
21, or
that's the
21?
one that I'm thinking of.
Okay, then
when
that's probably the one. So I thought it was longer than that, but sometime after the initial implementation, shortly thereafter, there was a conversation about amending that ordinance.
November 9th, 2021.
There you go.
So the root of this would be basically bringing it back to have a presentation on, is it working? How does it work? What's the recovery on it? What are those rates? Have they dropped? Are they the same? And I think it's appropriate. And anyway, so both of those I would ask for, we have to do public comment on this, but, hopefully unanimous consent on them.
Do you need me for anything else?
No.
The last thing I'll leave you with is that if a decision was to be made, and we're totally willing to support in whatever presentation this board wants, there's about $80,000 of fees that we collect through CryWolf attached to this. So that's just the base numbers that we have right now. Started at about 10, we're at about 80. And that's just for the sheriff's office. I do not know what the fire has, but we would be happy to go into details on a presentation if needed.
Right.
Sheriff, do you guys get calls, or are you getting calls, like, are people being, I'm assuming they're being billed incorrectly, that's why this is coming up?
There was a few. An alarm company that called, and there were some people that I referred to your office, and you have worked with them, but were double billing. And again, this is mostly trying to agendize exactly that conversation of going through some of these problem use cases.
Yes, to answer your question, yes, we've had constituents complain about being double billed. Some of them are incorrect. Some of them are correct, that they were in fact double billed. And I think that part of that is the sheriff and fire, whether or not it was correct or incorrect, were added onto one contract and without differentiation. So people were paying a registration fee with the sheriff's letterhead saying you're being essentially registering and paying this registration fee for the sheriff to respond to burglary and robbery false alarms. And then probably a year later, they were seeing another fee for fire, but also on the same letterhead, same website. And so there was some confusion. It took us a while to get that confusion lined out, but whether or not some yes, some no.
Okay. Right. Thanks.
You bet. Any other questions? Sorry.
I think we're probably good for the
Great.
scheduling. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it. Open it up for public comment. This is, again, on items 19 and 20. 20 is the CSEDD letter item for opportunity zones. 19 is the CryWolf false alarm fee. If any members of the public would like to speak, please come on up and indicate so. You'll have 3 minutes. Going once, going twice. All right, closing public comment on that item. So if there's any discussion, otherwise I'd look for a motion for consent to approve both.
So I actually have a lot of history with this because I actually have my CryWolf bill right here, ready to go in the mail. So I was unsure, where did the $80 annual subscription come from? Because mine is $17.72. So I guess,
believe the initial original fee was somewhere around the $80 a year range. Now that might have been cost recovery and CryWolf.
Right. So I guess, so are we asking for two separate presentations? Because like the people inside GCSD don't pay for this. They're excluded.
I don't know what you mean.
So
this is only asking that basically we ask fire and our sheriff's office to put together a presentation on how the system is working, issues, anything like that. And that will include, if I have an inaccuracy in the letter, it will be a full presentation on it.
No, I was just curious. Someone said, I don't think it was 80 because I wrote the check this morning. So, okay. I would just suggest that if we're going to do this, there's a lot of things between now and the end of the year that we kind of push this out a little bit and give it some time for them to do their thing. And then unless they feel like they need to do this sooner than later.
I think I don't believe I specified a date, did I, in there? I was going to leave it to the CAO's office to, as we find a time that's appropriate and as the presentation comes together and makes sense.
Okay.
Well, and I kind of see where Supervisor Griefer is coming from. The request here is that the sheriff present on the CryWolf system and answer questions about issues that have arisen. My feeling is that we just heard a presentation. I feel pretty comfortable with what the sheriff just presented to us today. I just be honest, I don't see that we have capacity to take this on as an issue. And I feel comfortable that I understand the issue if there is one. And I also feel comfortable that the sheriff and fire chief can work through problems that arise on a case-by-case basis. I haven't received a lot of complaints about this in the past, and so I wasn't aware. I think I got maybe 1 or 2 emails that have been resolved. So I guess I'm a little confused at why we would agendize this as a presentation and not just let the relevant departments deal with it internally.
I mean, it'd be a presentation, I think, on the core precept, which is we have a lot of false alarms. There hasn't been, that I'm aware of, a presentation of whether it has been effective in reducing them. I don't think we track that metric, which has been one of the things, or how many complaints may have been reported. Some reported to us that we then, I think, passed on also. How many have come into those? And it's not that I don't think exists. We just have never actually pulled that together into an item to talk about it since we adopted that. I did have a meeting with the Sheriff's Office, with County Fire, with interim CAO. We talked about it. I think the general consensus was it would be valuable to bring this forward to explain how this works and present some of the findings, and that there were, outside of just complaints, some issues of whether this was, whether things were being as responsive as we needed from the vendor and a few things.
So I understand that. I feel comfortable that I understand the issue at hand, and I don't feel a need to bring it to the board for a full discussion in the future.
And we shouldn't have merged these items. We can do a separate vote on it too, but Roger, did you have a comment on that?
No, the only comment I was going to make was some of the complaints with the double billing. The company did transition to, it was purchased, and at the time of that transition, there were a lot of issues with double billing. And I think that even Supervisor Griefer experienced that and had it resolved. I think since then, a lot of the issues related to the billing were resolved. I do think that there is an opportunity, maybe even with the Fire and Sheriff's Department, at a future presentation that they're already planning for other operational things, for them to include something like this. And I also do recognize that I've said this from the very beginning. I think that the system that we're using is valuable and has taken in some relief and provided relief to deputies on their response and probably to fire. I haven't had as many conversations with fire about it, but just hearing that there is over 1,000 calls a year, that's 1,000 calls the deputies are responding to that they're not responding to other calls. So I think in the future, if we want to table it and bring it back during a regular presentation that they're going to do anyways on some other topic, they can include some CRYWF data. I think that'd be great. But it also sounds like it could be almost a staff report during a regular board meeting because the data is pretty readily available from what we just heard.
All right. Well, I'm not hearing support for agendizing that, so maybe just feedback that it could be incorporated into a future presentation, which is fine.
And I agree with that. I think Roger laid out a good couple of options there.
Yeah, so we still, I would ask for a motion to support, or I can make the motion, but sending that letter on CSCDD regarding the opportunity zones, unless we've had any feedback from our NACO representative and being able to talk to some of the staff there. But it's still, I think, come back to the same, which is I'd like them to investigate it.
Yeah, the only feedback I got was, is this something they want to do? And I know they haven't, unfortunately, they've left. They have a meeting on the 19th. So I didn't know if that was something that they wanted to discuss, whether it's a same, my kind of my same concerns is, do they want to take on another project? I know that we have the data we've already asked staff to provide to them. Is that something else? But
I'm going to be at the meeting, and I was going to be bringing this up. Really, all I was asking for is that we have, I guess, interest in this. We often bring up topics of what's happening within the region. It's not really a full project so much as I think just following what is basically a funding process, right? So I'll make the motion to approve of item 20. Is there a second?
Chairman, is there any cost to us for this?
No.
I'll second it then.
Okay. We have a first by myself. We have a second by Supervisor Holland. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstaining. not to be pushy, I'm trying, it's 3:51, so we'll move it through. Passes unanimously, and then we'll move into item 21. The clerk can read that.
Item number 21, consideration of approving out-of-state travel for Tuolumne County board members to attend the National Association of Counties NACO Payments in Lieu of Taxes, PALT, fly-in event on September 09 through 2025 in Washington, D.C. Brandon.
Thank you. This was just a request to kind of bring up. Normally, we would have our NACO representative would be attending into the PILT fly-in. PILT and SRS are intimately tied together. Since it was effectively canceled and brought back, this is a pretty critical time, SRS, to basically lobby and advocate, because as you probably were aware and they talked about it, most of the United States does not have the proportion of federal lands we do. We are always fighting. I think you had actually mentioned, we're always fighting every year to get this. This is the closest it's been in a long time to not being there. So my recommendation was, and we don't have to do a vote inherently, we do have to approve out-of-state travel if we choose to, but if we as a board wanted to, that would expand our capacity to talk to legislators, to make a case that this is extremely important, and probably no other state or only a few states actually benefit as much as rural areas in California. So this wouldn't only be for our NACO rep, but if we have 4 or 5 people going, we would then be able to hit 4 or 5 times as many offices that may be the votes needed to secure this program. I also wanted to highlight that this is one of those issues that while it looks like it could be cut, there's a chance that it could get a lot more money into it also. It's very hard to predict. So that was all.
No, I was just going to say, I just don't think we're in a position as a county to send multiple people. Point one, out-of-state travel is just expensive right now. So secondly, I would be more in favor of issuing a letter, kind of stating our position. I know I have not spoken to Supervisor Kirk, and as the backup to this, I chose not to go to this event because I didn't want to compromise the September 9th. And then I did have a discussion with Supervisor Campbell, who has more information or history with this program. So I think the best thing we could do is say, hey, let's voice our position as we can, the best we can, while recognizing our current budget status and situation. Maybe we can send them a letter or work through our other NACO as well as RCRC, CSAC, and get the word out there. And maybe next year we can have a better game plan of how we want to approach this.
To clarify, will you after that be attending? No.
What's that?
Will you be attending? I wasn't sure if you said you weren't going to, and then the September 9th thing. Because our next item here is talking about the reason 9th cancellation.
The reason I'm not wanting, the twofold is one, I don't want to spend the money for out-of-state travel. And when it was originally brought to my attention about this event on 9/11, the 9th to the 11th, I know that that's a board meeting, and I didn't want to sacrifice a board meeting for that as well. So no, I will not be going for those 2 reasons.
Okay, that's what I was asking, because 22 is changing it.
Right.
So anyway, that'll just be brought up if we would like to. I think it's a fair point to make, but it was more whether we all wanted to go to, because it's 3 days. It's a lot of extra time, but it is something to keep in mind. Anyway, I'm fine with tabling that item and being able to move into 22. If there is no, do we have to do public comment if we're tabling it, right? We'll open up, public comment on item 21. If there's any comment regarding the attendance to the PILT fly-in event. Going once, going twice. All right, not seeing anybody. I'll have that item tabled indefinitely or pulled or whatever term we like to use. And I believe we're on to our last item of the day, correct? Item number 22. If the clerk can read the item, please.
Item number 22, consideration of canceling the September 09, 2025 regular meeting and directing staff to schedule a special meeting on September 15, 2025.
All right. Interim CAO.
Well, it kind of sounds like we don't need to cancel the September 9th meeting if we're not going to go into the PILT fly-in. However, we do still want to get direction from the board on scheduling a special meeting on September 15th. So we would like to have a special meeting on September 15th, which is a Monday. It would be at 9 o'clock. And we would dedicate that day to our first presentation of the adopted budget.
Okay. So we are going to be ignoring the first half of that recommendation and considering the second half for a special meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
What day was that? The 15th?
15th.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I see no issue. We'll open this item up on 22 for any public comment. If any members of the public would like to speak, please indicate so. Going once, going twice. All right, closing public comment on that item, and so we'll bring it back for discussion and or a motion of scheduling a special meeting for September 15th to 2025.
Yeah, I'll make that motion. Well, that would be useful to you, correct?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So, and it kind of goes to a point, I see us kind of going away from the calendar that we approved at the beginning of the year with some of our meetings. And just to kind of reiterate that it's the expectation of the public that we're going to be here on these Tuesdays that are designated at 9 a.m. And we know well in advance when those meetings are. And so that's why I feel pretty strongly about, preserving the 9th, which I know is a kind of a moot point now. But that date, we're talking about the 15th, the 16th, right? 15th.
The 15th, which is a Monday.
The Monday, okay.
And the meeting on the 16th.
What's on, okay. Well, here again, on the board calendar that we approved, it's listed as the 16th as a potential special board meeting, but now we're making it the 15th.
And the 16th.
And the 16th, okay.
And the 16th, yes.
All right, okay. All right, I'm just looking for some clarity on that. I get confused easily when it comes to these meetings things, so I'll move to approve the proposal of adding that day for a special meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a first by Supervisor Campbell. We have a second by Supervisor Holland. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. Passes unanimously. And with that, I believe we are all done. All right. So we're going to adjourn the meeting at 3:59. Thank you for everybody that attended this morning and was able to hang with us today. Thank you, Carol, too, for hanging in with us for pretty much the whole meeting, too. Friends, bye-bye.